Chapter 46. Nalan Dan was moving around Qin Yu at an extremely fast speed, trying to make Qin Yu unable to distinguish her whereabouts. However, Qin Yu stood motionless. Under the ice-cold silver mask, no one could see the sneer on the corner of Qin Yu's mouth. Competing in speed. Qin Yu's strongest point in body training was his speed. When he was 13 years old, Qin Yu could only lift 100 jin with one hand, but his speed had already surpassed an ordinary peak Hotian master. Now that Qin Yu had become a Xiantian master in one fell swoop, all the muscles and cells in his body had changed. When he was at the peak Hotian level, Qin Yu could lift 1,500 jin with one hand. Now, Qin Yu's strength was no less than 2,000 jin. What level had his speed reached now? Moreover, in terms of control, muscles were certainly easier to control than Xiantian Zhen Qi. In terms of endurance, muscle strength was also more durable than Xiantian Zhen Qi. I hate it when people call me auntie. Nalan Dan's cold and emotionless voice penetrated Qin Yu's ears. Nalan Dan's pair of jade-like hands that were plucking the baby's heart were like a blooming lotus, transforming into countless phantoms that attacked Qin Yu. Since ancient times, the first external expert to reach the Xiantian realm, how strong is his strength? Qin Yu thought in his heart, and then smiled as he looked at the countless phantoms that attacked him. I'll use you as an experiment. Qin Yu punched out with all his strength without holding back. Straight line. Show. With an extremely sharp whistling sound in the air, Qin Yu's right fist carried a power as heavy as Mount Tai and directly attacked Nalan Dan. Hearing such a terrifying sharp whistling sound, Nalan Feng and Zhan Su's complexion changed. Nalan Dan was also caught unprepared. The fist had already reached her face, and the wind from the fist stimulated the pain on her face like needles. She couldn't care much about it. The blooming lotus in her hands suddenly retracted, and the Xiantian Zhen Qi in her body frantically arranged in the center of her hands. However, before she could gather more Xiantian Zhen Qi, the fist had already arrived. Boom! Nalan Dan's palm was like a big iron hammer that ruthlessly smashed down. Nalan Dan's figure flew back, but her complexion was very ugly. A full-strength punch of more than 2,000 kilograms. This Nalan Dan was not good at strength, moreover, she was only at the early Xiantian realm. This fist caused her arms to go numb with pain, and Nalan Dan did not dare to continue attacking. This guy is a monster. He is too strong. Nalan Dan said coldly. Zhan Su smiled faintly and said, with such strength, I reckon that he's an expert who has reached the innate stage by practicing the reckless bull force, a mental cultivation method that focuses on strength. If Qin Yu did not exist in this world, Zhan Su's guess could be considered correct. After all, it was extremely difficult for a Xiantian expert to attain such terrifying strength. Little brother, little sister, both of you come at me together. Zhen Su's order rang out. Nalan Dan's Xiantian true qi flowed through her body, and her arms were no longer in severe pain. She only felt a slight discomfort, but she could still continue fighting. Nalan Dan and Nalan Feng glanced at each other. Suddenly, they turned into two afterimages and once again attacked Qin Yu. However, at this time, both of them had weapons. Scimitars. The scimitars were in the shape of a half-moon, emitting an ice-cold light. Qin Yu's eyes slightly narrowed. Suddenly, he clenched his hands into fists and fiercely punched in two directions. Like a flood dragon emerging from the water, his fists carried the extremely formidable strength of a Xiantian external expert. Pang! Pang! Two sounds were heard. Qin Yu's fists just hit the surface of the two scimitars. Pang! Both Nalan Dan and Nalan Feng's bodies shook. Dan, how can this guy only be a silver card assassin? Even among the gold card assassins, this guy is definitely an upper-class figure. Nalan Feng transmitted his voice. At this moment, he also felt the terrifying strength of his opponent's fist. That violent collision made his chest feel stuffy. Feng, speed, we can only rely on speed. Nalan Dan's voice came. Nalan Dan and Nalan Feng were very distressed. Qin Yu's fists were really too heavy. Being hit by his fists was even more unbearable than being hit by a huge rock. If a 2,000 gene huge rock smashed down, at least the contact area was still very large. However, Qin Yu's fists had more than 2,000 gene of strength completely concentrated on his fists. The impact force was even stronger. Qin Yu was still motionless, allowing the two to move extremely fast around him. Pang! 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 Qin Yu casually punched, but each of his fists was like a huge rock or iron hammer smashing down. Nalan Dan and Nalan Feng were about to go crazy. Just as they were about to attack, they were blasted away by his fists. Keeping them at such extreme speed consumed a lot of their Xiantian Zhen Qi. Zhan Su was indifferently watching. His pupils were only filled with the images of Qin Yu's attacks. No one knew what he was thinking. I've just entered the Xiantian realm. According to reason, I'm also at the early stage of the Xiantian realm. However, I'm an external expert at the early stage of the Xiantian realm. You guys are only at the early stage of the Xiantian realm. Qin Yu said in his heart. But they are too weak. Forget it, let's deal with them. Qin Yu had been playing around. After all, this was his first time competing with an internal expert at the Xiantian realm. However, Qin Yu was wrong. It wasn't that his opponents were weak, but that he, an external expert at the Xiantian realm, was too abnormal. Other people who practiced external techniques and reached the pinnacle of the Hotian realm could only lift 700 or 800 jin with one hand. However, Qin Yu's pinnacle of the Hotian realm was a terrifying 1,500 jin. When Qin Yu reached the Xiantian realm, how could an ordinary early-stage Xiantian expert compare with his strength? Let's end this. Qin Yu's eyes suddenly burst out with a bright light. Not good. Zhan Su discovered that something was wrong, but it was already too late. In a flash, Qin Yu's figure turned into several afterimages. Then, the afterimages merged into one. Qin Yu was still standing at his original position, as if he had never moved. However, Nalan Dan and Nalan Feng were motionless like statues. Suddenly, pang! Pang! Nalan Feng and Nalan Dan fell to the ground very straightforwardly, because in that instant, Qin Yu was as fast as lightning. He used his fists and fingers to smash the vital points in their throats. The two of them were already dead. Actually, my strongest point isn't strength, but speed. Qin Yu's indifferent voice resounded in the silent courtyard. Little brother, little sister. Zhan Su looked at the dead Nalan Dan and Nalan Feng and said slowly in a low voice. His voice contained extreme pain. Then, Zhan Su raised his head and stared at Qin Yu. The cold light in his eyes made Qin Yu feel cold all over. At the same time, Zhan Su's aura suddenly became fierce. Nalan Dan and Nalan Feng had followed Zhan Su for more than 20 years. During the past 20 years, they only listened to Zhan Su's orders. The three of them were as close as real siblings. But just now Qin Yu attacked too quickly. By the time Zhan Su reacted, it was already too late. A deep and low roar of extreme hatred rose. Buzz! The air suddenly vibrated. Zhan Su's hairband suddenly broke. His long hair fluttered wantonly. An extremely terrifying force erupted from Zhan Su's body like a volcanic eruption. Berserk Xiantian true energy completely covered the surface of his body. Being enveloped by the Xiantian true energy, Zhan Su's entire body seemed indistinct. Only his ice-cold eyes made people's hearts cold. Even though Zhan Su was not the head of the Royal Xiong clan's intelligence department, his position was not lower than the head of the department at all. For so many years, he had never disappointed Xiong Guang. Xiong Guang had also always trusted this mysterious general very much. However, his real power was completely unknown to outsiders. How powerful was this sickly man? Zhan Su stared at Qin Yu with eyes like a viper's. He only said one sentence. Die. Buzz! The air rapidly vibrated for a while, becoming completely chaotic like ripples. Zhan Su's body suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Qin Yu. Boom! Qin Yu was extremely shocked. At the same time, he flew backwards extremely fast. A berserk force completely attacked his body. The mask on his face immediately shattered with a bang. At the same time, Qin Yu's coat was also shattered and scattered in the air. Qin Yu retreated far away and looked at Jian Su in front of him in astonishment. In just one move, Qin Yu's upper body was left with only the black gold undershirt. Even his mask was shattered. His speed is so fast. His true energy is also terrifyingly strong. Since his protective upper body qi is so strong, he should be a late-stage Xiantian expert. Qin Yu was very certain in his heart. Even if Nalan Dan and Nalan Feng were to join forces, they would still be killed by Jian Su in just 1 or 2 moves. This Jian Su was really too powerful. 2 early-stage Xiantian experts simply couldn't compare with a late-stage Xiantian expert. Jian Su stared at Qin Yu. He grinned and said in a cold voice, "Your speed is not bad. Unfortunately, your strongest speed is not as good as mine. Although your strength is not bad, I've instilled my Xiantian true energy into my attack. The impact force is even stronger than your fist. Your attack, speed, and defense are far inferior to mine. You must die this time." Jian Su announced his judgment. "Is my speed only not bad?" Qin Yu suddenly smiled. "Sorry, please wait a moment." Under Jian Su's astonished gaze, Qin Yu took off the black iron arm guards and leg guards from his arms and legs. Bang! Qin Yu threw the black iron arm guards and leg guards on the ground. A heavy sound of metal hitting metal resounded. One could imagine how heavy they were. Jian Su was shocked. At this moment, he realized that Qin Yu's speed was so fast because he was wearing heavy black iron arm guards and leg guards. Once he took them off, how fast was Qin Yu's speed? After taking off 200 Jin of weight, I'm half as light as before. Even if my speed isn't twice as fast as before, it's at least 50% faster. I'm almost on par with this guy. I won't take off the black gold undershirt. 200 Jin of weight should be enough. Moreover, the black gold undershirt's defense is extremely strong. Qin Yu thought in his heart. It seems that I need to re-evaluate you. Jian Su's pupils reflected Qin Yu's image, but his mind was calculating accurately. Qin Yu stared at Jian Su in front of him with rapt attention. Shua! Shua! The 2 figures suddenly disappeared. At the same time, a whistling sound of wind started to resound. To be precise, there was only one whistling sound of wind. Although Jian Su's movements were fast and his body movements were ingenious, the wind's resistance was extremely strong. However, Qin Yu's rapid movement was completely silent. The 2 chased each other. Because of the wind's resistance, Qin Yu's speed was slightly faster. Break! Qin Yu suddenly shouted in a low voice. His right leg kicked straight like lightning. Carrying a force of 2,000 to 3,000 Jin, he directly kicked the side of Jian Su's left leg. However, Jian Su's protective aura shook and unexpectedly resisted Qin Yu's heavy kick. Pooh! 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 A sharp sound of air exploding rang out. Qin Yu's complexion changed. Concealed weapon. This was Qin Yu's first reaction. However, Qin Yu's spiritual sense clearly discovered the object that made the sound of air exploding. Fingers, Jian Su's sharp claws. Like an eagle's claws, the 5 fingertips of Jian Su's left hand emitted golden rays of light. They pierced through the air and attacked. Retreat! Qin Yu supported himself with one hand and rapidly retreated. Whiz! 5 sharp whistling sounds rang out. Qin Yu's spiritual sense clearly discovered that the rays of light on Jian Su's fingers had unexpectedly left his fingers. 5 golden rays of light unexpectedly continued to shoot at an extremely fast speed. Qin Yu's speed was indeed fast, but no matter how fast he was, he could not catch up with the rays of light. Qin Yu only had enough time to move. Of the 5 rays of light, 2 missed and the other 3 shot at Qin Yu's abdomen. The black gold undershirt was indeed a protective treasure. With a bang sound, the rays of light did not pierce through the black gold undershirt. However, the powerful impact of the rays of light still passed through the black gold undershirt, causing Qin Yu's body to shake. Your strength is not bad. It's worthy for me to use my weapon. This is a high Xian grade weapon, Blood Soul Claw. The Blood Soul Claw is a sharp claw of a demonic beast in the untainted land. It was only perfected after dozens of processes, Zhan Su said indifferently. A huge blood-red claw appeared on his right hand. Qin Yu slightly narrowed his eyes. That claw was indeed a demonic beast's claw, and not made of ordinary steel or ores. There's only one chance. I must seize it. Qin Yu thought to himself. Haha, I'll let you have a taste of my most powerful skill, 10,000 heart-piercing claws. In a short moment, Zhan Su's eyes suddenly turned blood-red, the same color as the Blood Soul Claw. At the same time, rays of light gathered at the tip of the Blood Soul Claw. Pooh! 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 It was as if Zhan Su was shooting bullets. Using some unknown method, the surging Xiantian Zhan Qi in his body unceasingly formed golden rays of light at the tip of the Blood Soul Claw. The rays of light then shot out. In a short moment, dozens of rays of light shot out. The strangest thing was that these rays of light seemed to be under Zhan Su's control. What kind of skill is this? Qin Yu could not understand at all. Whatever, it's too late. Qin Yu clenched his teeth and abruptly dashed diagonally towards another direction. Then, he paused and dashed towards another direction at an extremely fast speed. Qin Yu flashed at an extremely fast speed, but there was not the slightest sound of wind. More and more rays of light attacked Qin Yu. Although these rays of light could not penetrate the black gold vest, Qin Yu's head could not withstand these rays of light. Qin Yu could only flash and try his best to dodge. If he could not dodge, he would use the black gold vest to block. The last move. Qin Yu's eyes suddenly lit up. Qin Yu's entire body turned into a ray of light and dashed directly towards Zhan Su. Haha, you don't need to use your speed to escape. Instead, you've come to die. Zhan Su was very excited. He could not help but have a proud smile on his face. The Blood Soul Claw tore through the air and clawed towards Qin Yu's head. Qin Yu's eyes flashed. Flaming gloves. Qin Yu's hands flashed and the gloves suddenly protected his fists. Qin Yu stretched out his left hand and brazenly clashed with the Blood Soul Claw. Courting death. Zhan Su felt disdain in his heart. His Blood Soul Claw was of high immortal grade. What was there to be afraid of? Even the speed of the Blood Soul Claw increased a little. Ah! Zhan Su was suddenly shocked. Qin Yu's left hand was actually in a deadlock with the Blood Soul Claw on his right hand. It seemed that the glove on Qin Yu's left hand was extremely strange. It was not even afraid of the strong tearing power of the Blood Soul Claw. At this moment, Qin Yu's right fist was already attacking. Bang! Zhan Su's left hand also blocked Qin Yu's right fist. However, Qin Yu's right fist was covered by the flaming gloves. Zhan Su could only use his vigorous Xiantian True Qi to block. Brat, do you think I can't kill you like this? Zhan Su suddenly sneered. Between the Blood Soul Claw and the fingers of his left hand that were in a deadlock, rays of golden light once again appeared. At such a close distance, Qin Yu would not be able to dodge the rays of light shooting out. Zhan Su could not help but become excited. He seemed to be able to see the scene of Qin Yu's head exploding. Qin Yu's eyes suddenly brightened. Middle-grade spirit weapon, flaming sword. Phew! Ah! Zhan Su screamed. A black short sword suddenly appeared in Qin Yu's right hand that was originally in a deadlock. The black short sword was extremely sharp. It actually cut off Zhan Su's left hand and then went towards Zhan Su's throat. At such a close distance, there was no time to dodge. Zhan Su shouted loudly and endured the sharp pain of his hand being cut off. The protective aura around his body suddenly became more intense. Die! A fierce look flashed in Zhan Su's eyes. Zhan Su knew that there was no time to dodge, so he could only rely on his protective aura. At the same time, Zhan Su made up his mind. The golden light on the Blood Soul Claw became even more blazing. At the same time, he suddenly shot it out, wanting to shoot Qin Yu's head. Qin Yu's head naturally could not block such a sharp golden light. At this critical moment, Qin Yu's right hand resolutely used the flaming iron to cut through Zhan Su's protective aura and then went towards Zhan Su's throat. At the same time, Qin Yu's left hand, which was wearing the flaming gloves, used his most powerful attack, finger fist attack. It directly attacked the center of the blood soul claw's palm. Puff! Blood spurted out. It was the blood from Zhan Su's throat that had been cut. At the same time, it was also the blood from the hole in Qin Yu's left arm that had been pierced. It was also the blood from Qin Yu's mouth. At that moment, Qin Yu's finger fist attack with the help of the flaming gloves had directly made Zhan Su's palm, which was inside the blood soul claw, tremble. Naturally, the blood soul claw was affected. The direction of the shooting light also changed abruptly. 2 light rays shot towards Qin Yu's left arm, and the other light rays shot towards Qin Yu's chest. 2 holes appeared on his left arm, and blood flowed out. Although his chest was protected by the black gold vest, this time the light rays were too close and the impact was too strong. It still made Qin Yu spit out blood and suffer internal injuries. That was close. Qin Yu looked at Zhan Su, whose throat had been cut. He took a deep breath, inhaled the fresh air into his abdomen, and then exhaled a long breath. The timing of the flaming sword was just right. If he had taken it out at the beginning, Zhan Su would never have given Qin Yu's dagger a chance to hurt him. The reason why Qin Yu could kill Zhan Su was that the flaming gloves and the flaming sword appeared consecutively at the end, which caught Zhan Su off guard. Even so, Qin Yu was almost finished. Xiao Hei. Qin Yu suddenly saw the Black Hawk in front of him. The Black Hawk was staring at Qin Yu. Just now, Qin Yu and Zhan Su were fighting in close quarters. They were so close that life and death were decided in an instant. The Black Hawk had no time to help. However, the Black Hawk was not an ordinary creature. It also saw that Qin Yu was in danger just now. It was sad that it didn't help Qin Yu. Xiao Hei, I'm all right. Hiss. Qin Yu took a deep breath and looked at the injury on his arm. The internal injury was not bad, but the 2 holes in his left arm. It was hard to say whether he could recover from such a serious injury. Moreover, Qin Yu felt that the bones and tendons of his left arm seemed to be seriously damaged. Qin Yu glanced at the 3 dead people. He quickly took the iron box with the Trans-Heaven diagram and the key. Then he took Zhan Su's head and got on the Black Hawk's back. The Black Hawk shook its wings and directly rushed into the sky, flying away from the city. In the depths of a nameless canyon, there was an independent manor. There were many masters in the manor, and more than 10 Xiantian masters. Outside the manor, there was a bamboo forest and a brook. Beside the brook, a middle-aged man was sitting on a bamboo chair, quietly drinking tea and enjoying the scenery. No one knew what he was thinking. Suddenly, an old man in gray and an old man in blue appeared behind the middle-aged man. What was shocking was that these 2 old men were both late Xiantian masters. Reporting to the chief, Zhan Su is dead. The old man in gray said respectfully. Oh. The middle-aged man drinking tea slightly paused in his hand. Tell me the details truthfully. Reporting to the chief, the place where Zhan Su was killed also had the bodies of his 2 subordinates, Nalan Dan and Nalan Feng. Moreover, there were also fragments of the silver mask at the place where the incident happened. It should be the silver card killer Lu Xing, who was carrying out the mission. The old man in blue said, Silver card killer? Lu Xing? The middle-aged man put down his teacup and stood up. Oh no, now that Lu Xing should be regarded as a gold card killer. You should immediately check the information about this Lu Xing, killing a late Xiantian master and 2 early Xiantian masters. Such a gold card killer, even the leader of Skynet was interested. Chief, but during this time, the killer Lu Xing did not turn in the heads and complete the mission. Moreover, according to the blood at the scene, in addition to the 3 dead people, there was another person's blood. We are sure that Lu Xing should be seriously injured. The old man in blue bowed and said, Oh, but since he was able to leave the scene, it means that he is not dead. Such a person will not die so easily. The middle-aged man said with a faint smile. Then he said indifferently, Okay, get ready immediately. I am going back to Yen capital. Yes. The two old men bowed and complied. The middle-aged man murmured in a low voice, "Your heir has been out for so long, how come there is no news at all?" The middle-aged man turned around, his brows still tightly knitted. This mysterious leader of Skynet was East Vanquishing Prince, Qin De. Chapter 47. Trash, Trash, Trash. Bang! The inkstone is ruthlessly thrown on the ground and completely breaks into pieces. Xiang Guang stares at the hook-nosed man like a wild beast that wants to devour people and rebukes angrily, "You trash. Even Zhen Su has been killed. What actually happened? You tell me clearly and in detail, otherwise, you don't have to be the head of the Secret Service anymore." Xiang Guang is completely confused by anger. The hook-nosed man's heart trembles. He is the head of the Secret Service who knows so many of the Emperor's secrets. Once he quits, there will only be one result. He will be killed. The hook-nosed man thinks of something, then immediately bows and says, "Your Majesty, according to our investigation, the Heavenly Net's gold medal mission is precisely to kill Zhan Su. Even though we don't know who took the mission, we can be sure of one thing based on the scene, that it was a silver medal assassin who killed Zhen Su." Trash. I know Zhen Su's power best. Silver medal assassin? Bullshit. His subordinates, the Nalan siblings, should be able to kill him easily. Both of them are Xiantian experts, and Zhen Su's power is even much greater than theirs. You said that 3 people like them were killed by a silver medal assassin. Tell me, do you think I'll believe it? Or do you think I'm a fool? Xiang Guang says while staring fiercely at the hook-nosed man. The hook-nosed man gives a forced smile in his heart. He does not believe the truth. Your Majesty, Zhen Su's power is extremely strong. Even I am far inferior to him. His safety was all arranged by himself, so I don't know either. This time he was killed and there was a silver medal assassin's mask at the scene. But I think the murderer is very likely a gold medal assassin who wore a silver mask to confuse Zhen Su, causing him to underestimate the enemy and be killed. The hook-nosed man says hurriedly. Xiang Guang ponders for a long time. Seeing that Xiang Guang does not seem to believe him, the hook-nosed man thinks of something and says again, "Your Majesty, there's another possibility. East Vanquishing Prince Qin De thought Zhen Su was in his way, so he sent a top expert to kill Zhen Su. As for the fragments of the silver mask, they were probably used by East Vanquishing Prince to confuse us." The hook-nosed man thinks to himself, "East Vanquishing Prince, I'm sorry. At the critical moment I can only blame you." The hook-nosed man knows very well that Xiang Guang has always been suspicious of Qin De, so he can blame everything on Qin De. As expected. Yes, it must be that Qin De. He wanted to rebel, but he was worried that Zhan Su would find out, so he sent people to kill him. But he was worried that Zhan Su would find out that it was him who did it, so he made a broken silver mask. Humph, this idiot. Why didn't he make a broken golden mask? Wouldn't it be easier for Zhen Su to believe him? Xiang Guang talks to himself. His eyes glitter with coldness. But I'm not that easy to deceive. Qin De, I'm sure you want to rebel. This time, you killed Zhen Su and broke one of my wings. Good, good. Xiang Guang is furious. Zhen Su was too important to him. For more than 20 years, if Xiang Guang was worried that someone was disloyal to him, or suspected that someone had a precious treasure and so on, he has asked Zhen Su to investigate and handle these difficult matters. Zhen Su has never let him down. With Zhen Su's help, Xiang Guang can sit back and relax. Even with Qin De's methods, Zhen Su could still find out a lot of East Vanquishing Prince's secrets. It is easy to imagine how important Zhen Su is to Xiang Guang. However, Zhen Su is dead. Even though there are still many spies under the command of the chief spy, these spies are far less formidable than Zhen Su. Zhen Su's death is like breaking one of Xiang Guang's wings. How can he not be furious? How can he not gnash his teeth in anger? And this enmity is on Qin De's head. For so many years, he has often had nightmares. Then he found out that Qin De wanted to rebel. Now Zhen Su, whom he values the most, has also been killed by Qin De. Qin De, how can I be satisfied if I don't destroy your Qin clan? Xiang Guang crushes the teacup in his hand. His eyes are blazing with fury. At this moment, he has made another decision in his mind. Tell Yen to come to my place. You can go back first. The hook-nosed man secretly lets out a sigh of relief. Obviously, Xiang Guang will not vent his anger on him because of this matter. Being close to the emperor is like being close to a tiger. Every time he does something by the emperor's side, he must be extremely careful. Yes, I'll take my leave. The hook-nosed man bows and says. Xiang Guang is motionless in the imperial study, staring at the broken inkstone. Even though his eyes are fixed on the broken inkstone, at the moment he is obviously thinking about something else. After a while, the sound of footsteps rises outside. Yen, come in. Xiang Guang's voice rises. The door is opened. A young man with a devilish appearance walks in. This is none other than Yen, the leader of the Balong Corps. If those secret agents are only there to gather information, this Balong Corps is a secret army that secretly destroys all the enemies of the Imperial Xiong clan who stand in their way. Yen looks extremely strange. He looks like a young man, but in fact he has reached the Xiantian level more than 40 years ago. The main reason is that Xiantian experts have a lifespan of 500 years. After reaching the Xiantian level, the speed of aging will slow down. Your Majesty. Yen slightly bows and says. Xiang Guang thinks for a while, then clenches his teeth and says, All right, tell that Zhu-san I agree. But all the materials from the body of that demonic beast saber-toothed tiger must belong to me, especially those 16 sharp swords. Not a single one must be missing. Yen raises his eyebrows and slightly raises the corners of his mouth. He bows and says, Your Majesty is wise. That Zhu-san has already guaranteed that as long as he can get a trans-heaven diagram, he'll deliver the entire body of the demonic beast saber-toothed tiger to me without taking a single thing. That's good. Xiang Guang gives a cold laugh. I don't think that Zhu-san will dare to play any tricks on me. Zhu-san is known as the richest man on the Qianlong continent. His base is in the Ming dynasty. His business is spread all over the Qianlong continent, and his latent power is also extremely great. A group of elite subordinates of Zhu-san killed a demonic beast using an unknown method. The demonic beast saber-toothed tiger has the appearance of a huge tiger. There are 16 sharp sword-like spikes on its back, all of which are extremely sharp and comparable in power to high Xian-grade weapons. Also, the sharp claws of the saber-toothed tiger could be transformed into weapons. He hunted a saber-toothed tiger. That demonic beast saber-toothed tiger is a living treasure. Perhaps only Shangxian can be a match for the fierceness of the saber-toothed tiger. Who knows what kind of method Zhu-san used to kill it? Your Majesty, Mr. Zhu-san has a lot of secret strongholds. This time the saber-toothed tiger he killed in the wilderness is still in a secret stronghold in a city near the wilderness. They can't openly transport it to the Ming dynasty, so they can only divide it in that city, then send it back in batches. However, that city is in the 3 eastern region counties. Yen bows and says. At this point, Xiang Guang also knows that this matter has become a bit troublesome. The wilderness is in the easternmost part of the continent, and the Chu dynasty is close to it. The 3 eastern region counties of the Chu dynasty are the 3 counties adjacent to the wilderness. Generally, people who want to enter the wilderness have to pass through the 3 eastern region counties. These 3 eastern region counties are Qin De's territory. In the past, Qin De did not dare to openly snatch them, but now it's hard to say what he will do. Yen, let your father elder you personally lead a group of experts to the 3 eastern region counties to trade with them. Xiang Guang orders solemnly. Yen immediately says respectfully, Yes, with father going out, there definitely won't be any mistakes. Xiang Guang suddenly bursts out laughing, Haha, this is only the second trans-heaven diagram. If I don't collect all 3 trans-heaven diagrams, I simply won't be able to find out the faintly discernible mysterious technique. Moreover, in history, many geniuses and even Zionist have obtained 3 trans-heaven diagrams. Even after collecting all 3, no one has been able to comprehend the mystery within. I only have one diagram, so it's useless. It's worth it to use a useless trans-heaven diagram to exchange for a demonic beast. Yen bows and says that Zhu San is only fond of collecting treasures. He only wants to collect one to play with. Alright, Yen, this time there definitely won't be the slightest mistake. If I get the saber-toothed tiger, I'll get quite a few high Xian grade weapons. Not only Elder Yu, but also several Xian Tian experts. Remember, there definitely won't be the slightest mistake. Xiang Guang says again. If this saber-toothed tiger's corpse is snatched by Qin De, Xiang Guang will have made a wedding dress for someone else. He will not be able to get a good weapon but will instead give Qin De a batch of good weapons. Xiang Guang will not allow this to happen. Don't worry, Your Majesty. With father going out, he definitely won't disappoint Your Majesty. Yen bows and says. Thinking of Yan's father Elder Yu, Xiang Guang also feels relieved. Chapter 48. In a small independent courtyard house in a remote town in the 3 eastern region counties, Qin Yu bought this small courtyard house. When he became a silver card assassin, he earned quite a lot of money, so he bought more than 10 residences in the 3 eastern region counties so that he could live in them during normal times. End of B1C 3-inch anti-zhong. Don't bring the food to the hall. Just put it on this stone table. Tonight I'll have dinner in the courtyard. Qin Yu says smilingly. At this moment, Qin Yu has changed back to his original appearance. The Black Eagle has gone somewhere to look for food. An auntie wearing a big white cotton-padded jacket smilingly brings the food to the stone table next to Qin Yu. Xiao Yu, you eat here. I'll go back first. This Auntie Zhang is a staff member of a nearby hotel. Qin Yu stays here to recuperate. Usually he directly asks the hotel staff to send food to him. Qin Yu is also very free. After all, his father Qin Yu, his big brother and second brother are all preparing for a rebellion. He simply cannot get involved. Luckily I have the mysterious clear stream of Lu Xing's tears. Otherwise, I don't know when my left arm will recover. Qin Yu looks at his left arm and cannot help sighing in his heart. Qin Yu's arm was pierced by 2 holes by Zhen Su's finger before his death. The injury was very serious. However, under the penetration of the clear stream of Lu Xing's tears, the injury recovered at an astonishing speed. In just 3 days, there are only shallow scars on Qin Yu's arm, instead of the 2 frightening holes in the past. Soon after dinner, the Black Eagle comes back. Xiao Hei, you brat, you still know to come back. You went out yesterday and didn't come back until now. Really, did you find a beautiful female eagle? As soon as you saw her, you forgot me. You're really a pervert. Qin Yu says with a laugh while tapping the Black Eagle's head with chopsticks. As soon as the Black Eagle hears this, it cannot help raising its head with a very disdainful look. Obviously, the Black Eagle looked down on ordinary female eagles. Hey, you're quite proud. I've been recuperating for the past 3 days, so I haven't taken a good look at the trans-heaven diagram. Qin Yu's eyes lit up and he ran into the inner room. The Black Eagle blinked its eyes curiously and followed him into the inner room. Huh? Qin Yu stretched out his hand like a claw and grabbed a huge brick on the floor of the inner room. With a simple wave of his hand, the brick fell to the side. Under the huge brick were 2 metal boxes. Qin Yu took one of them. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it before. Qin Yu chuckled and tapped the metal box a few times with one hand. With a click, a keyhole appeared on the metal box. Qin Yu raised his eyebrows and smiled as he took out a key from his bosom. This key was taken from Nailan Feng. When Nailan Feng had placed the key, he had seen it clearly. As the key was inserted, it turned easily. Click. Hearing the expectant sound, Qin Yu smiled and opened the metal box. Qin Yu saw that there were 2 things in the box. One was a secret letter and the other was a square jade. That jade was emitting a soft multicolored light and was clearly different from ordinary jade. It was very strange. A secret letter? Is it for Xiang Guang? Qin Yu tore open the envelope and took out the secret letter. As he read it, Qin Yu's expression slightly changed. There were two main things in this secret letter. The first was the Trans-Heaven diagram. The second was about Qin Da's rebellion. It was very detailed and even contained information about some special troops in the 3 eastern region counties. Qin Yu secretly sighed. Phew, that was really dangerous. This Zhan Su really did a thorough investigation. There were many things that even I didn't know about. If that Xiang Guang had known about it, it would have been really bad. Luckily, I intercepted it. Qin Yu did not know that Zhan Su usually only wrote a secret letter to summarize the results of his investigation after investigating for a period of time. The secret letter that Qin Yu intercepted contained information about some special troops in the 3 eastern region counties. It was Zhan Su's biggest achievement after coming to the 3 eastern region counties. Some special armies would also play a special role in war. Surprise troops had to catch the enemy off guard. Once the enemy knew about the existence of these troops and made preparations in advance, they would no longer be able to catch the enemy off guard. Unfortunately, Xiang Guang would not be able to know about this information. After all, Zhan Su was already dead and this letter had also been intercepted. Even if he had sent someone else to be the head of the Secret Service in the 3 eastern region counties, it would still have been very difficult to find out. The person before Zhan Su had been a spy for over 10 years but still had not obtained any important information. A genius spy like Zhan Su was still very hard to find. Wang! He clenched his right hand. A powerful energy revolved around his palm and the letter was shattered into pieces. The letter has been destroyed. That old bastard Xiang Guang can forget about finding out. Qin Yu thinks to himself. His eyes cannot help emitting a cold light. He knows that his mother was killed by that old bastard Xiang Guang. How can Qin Yu not bear a grudge against Xiang Guang for killing his mother? Bang! Bang! 2 crisp sounds awaken Qin Yu's attention. As soon as Qin Yu takes a look, he immediately becomes very anxious. Xiao Hei, don't act recklessly. Your eagle beak is very sharp. Do you want to break this Trans-Heaven diagram? Qin Yu pushes Xiao Hei away while saying, Luckily, it's not broken. Qin Yu looks at the Trans-Heaven diagram. Only when he finds that the square jade of the diagram is still as undamaged as before does he secretly let out a sigh of relief. Qin Yu turns his head and looks angrily at Xiao Hei. However, Xiao Hei flaps his wings twice and shakes his head with a very complacent expression. The Trans-Heaven diagram has 3 square jade pieces that have been handed down for who knows how many years. This treasure is not an ordinary piece of jade, so it is not that easy to break. I won't waste any more time with you. I'm going to go out and study this Trans-Heaven diagram. Qin Yu takes the Trans-Heaven diagram out of the inner room and goes to the courtyard. Qin Yu likes to bathe in the starlight the most at night. Being under the starry sky late at night gives him a special feeling. At the moment, the sky has just darkened. However, this does not affect Qin Yu in the slightest as he looks at the Trans-Heaven diagram. This is the first Trans-Heaven diagram. What's going on? There's nothing else on it except some images. Qin Yu carefully observes for a long time. He even uses his spiritual sense to observe in detail. However, other than the images on the surface of the square jade, there is nothing else on it. On the front of the square jade, there is the handwriting, First Trans-Heaven diagram. The handwriting is the common language of the Qianlong continent. Below the handwriting on the front of the square jade, there are small pictures. The pictures are very small. There are a total of 36 pictures. Each picture is a person's action. Each action seems very strange. At least, Qin Yu thinks it is strange. Other than these 36 pictures, there is nothing else. What is this Trans-Heaven diagram? The first Trans-Heaven diagram only has 36 pictures. The people in these 36 pictures do not have any internal strength circulation paths. It's just 36 strange actions. Is it possible to learn these actions? Qin Yu asks doubtfully. Qin Yu knows that for so many years, the 3 Trans-Heaven diagrams have passed through countless people's hands. However, no one has been able to discover the mystery of this Trans-Heaven diagram. If it's as simple as learning the actions of the pictures, he doesn't know how many years it will take for someone to learn it. Qin Yu racked his brains and tried every means to study it. After spending the whole night, Qin Yu still can't think of any way until the moon is high in the sky. No matter, let's try first and see if there is any benefit to learning these actions. Qin Yu suddenly stands up. Qin Yu's spiritual sense is very powerful. Qin Yu completely remembers the various actions described in the 36 pictures. Immediately, Qin Yu starts to learn according to the order of those actions. Qin Yu's body flexibility is absolutely indescribable. However, even so, Qin Yu still feels very strange when he learns these strange actions. However, Qin Yu still holds back his temper and learns the actions one by one. Qin Yu's body is very flexible. Although these actions are strange, they are still extremely fast. As the actions unfold one by one, what's going on? What's going on with the spiritual energy of heaven and earth? Qin Yu is shocked to find that as Qin Yu's body changes, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth enters Qin Yu's body from his limbs and bones, and then directly penetrates into his muscles and bones. The speed of absorption is far faster than the absorption of internal strength at the beginning. Internal strength is dispersed from the dantian, and the muscles can absorb as much as possible. However, at this moment, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth directly penetrates into the body and does not disperse at all. It completely flows into the muscles and bones, allowing the muscles and bones to continuously absorb and transform. What is going on? Is the trans-heaven diagram so simple? Qin Yu doesn't know, but he knows one thing. At least he likes this set of actions. Chapter 49. The human body was a treasure trove. Many people could not completely decipher its mysteries even after spending their entire lives. In the depths of Qin Yu's muscles, the most basic cells that made up the body were different from ordinary people. After so many years of continuous extreme training, absorbing internal energy, and absorbing the magical clear stream of Lu Xing's tears, the most subtle cells in Qin Yu's body had undergone some magical changes. However, at this moment, as Qin Yu continued to learn those movements, his cells actually continued to absorb the spirit energy of heaven and earth and began to change again. Every cell was like a bottomless pit. The spirit energy of heaven and earth that poured in was completely devoured in an instant. Although the spirit energy of heaven and earth completely enveloped Qin Yu's body and even turned into a fog, it was still far from enough for his body to absorb. If one cell could absorb so much, how many cells did Qin Yu have in his body? This also showed that a person's potential was limitless. The 36 mysterious pictures of the sky connecting diagram really have a magical power. Qin Yu suppressed the excitement in his heart and wholeheartedly learned the 36 movements. He tried hard to perfect every movement, including the subtle movements of his fingers, so that they were exactly the same. Qin Yu discovered that the more accurate the movements were, the faster the absorption of the spirit energy of heaven and earth would be greatly increased. When Qin Yu first learned the 36 movements, he felt very awkward. However, as he continued to learn and the movements became more and more perfect, Qin Yu felt that the 36 movements were so comfortable. Every muscle and bone in his body had a comfortable feeling from the inside out. The moon slowly set behind the willow tree, and the sky gradually brightened. However, Qin Yu was still immersed in this set of movements. His movements became more and more natural. Although the movements were strange, Qin Yu no longer felt awkward when he performed them. Smooth and natural. Qin Yu finally felt this wonderful feeling. When he performed the 36 movements, Qin Yu reached the most basic level of smooth and natural. At this moment, what shocked Qin Yu the most was that the spirit energy of heaven and earth that enveloped his body had changed. It was no longer in the form of a fog like before. Instead, it formed 36 airflows that were as thick as an arm and penetrated Qin Yu's body at a much faster speed than before. By the time he reached the realm of having 36 arm-thick streams of air revolving around his body, time had already passed. 3 days and 3 nights. For 3 days and 3 nights, Qin Yu did not eat or drink. He was completely immersed in this set of movements. Only when he stopped now did he feel the obvious changes in his body. I feel refreshed. I don't feel hungry at all. This feeling is really good. Qin Yu's eyes burst out with a bright light. At this moment he was very excited in his heart. No matter what kind of mysteries this through heaven diagram has, just these images on the surface have already brought such a big change to me. I'm already very satisfied with this. At this moment, even if Qin Yu didn't want the first diagram, he wouldn't care, because Qin Yu had already memorized all the 36 diagrams. Of course, Qin Yu did not believe that the secret of the trans-heaven diagram was the simple 36 diagrams. If it was possible to succeed just by learning these diagrams, then after countless years, there would have been someone who had figured out the secret. Moreover, Qin Yu didn't believe that he could reach the level of that legendary person just by refining his body. Xiao Hei. Qin Yu saw the black hawk dozing in the yard and shouted with a smile. Xiao Hei suddenly opened his eyes. Seeing that Qin Yu had finally stopped practicing, he also excitedly flapped his wings. In the past 3 days, Qin Yu had been constantly practicing, so he was bored to death. It's been so long. It's time to hand in the task. If I don't hand in the task now, the Skynet will probably judge me as a failure. Qin Yu thought to himself. Immediately, Qin Yu took the iron box containing Zhan Su's head, then sat on the back of the Black Hawk and left the town. The Black Hawk was as fast as lightning, and its speed was extremely fast. I'm also a gold medal killer now. After changing his appearance and changing his bones, Qin Yu wore a golden mask and left a branch of the Skynet with a lot of banknotes in his arms. Haha, the person in charge of the Skynet was so enthusiastic when he knew that I was the killer Lu Xing. This has never happened before. Qin Yu sighed in his heart. When he handed in the task just now, the person in charge was very enthusiastic about Qin Yu. However, when Qin Yu handed in the task, the person in charge was cold and formal. It was no wonder that Qin Yu sighed. Qin Yu didn't know that gold medal killers had a very high status, and even gold medal killers were divided into upper, middle, and lower ranks. Killing an early-stage Xiantian expert was also a gold medal killer. Killing a middle-stage Xiantian expert was also a gold medal killer. Killing a late-stage Xiantian expert was also a gold medal killer. Of course, these 3 gold medal killers were not the same. Zhan Su, who Qin Yu killed, was a late-stage Xiantian master. Qin Yu was now one of the best even among the gold medal killers. Such an elite, the person in charge of a small branch naturally had to be very enthusiastic about Qin Yu. As soon as Qin Yu left the branch, the person in charge of the Skynet branch immediately ordered, "Killer Lu Xing has just left. Quickly check his identity." Although the Skynet had a rule not to check the identity of any foreign net member, a gold medal killer was a Xiantian master, and the leader of the Skynet had personally ordered to check the identity of Killer Lu Xing. Naturally, the Skynet had to check it. However, when their people were about to follow him, they found that, "Sir, there is no sign of Killer Lu Xing in the East Street. Sir, there is no sign of Killer Lu Xing in the West Street." The person in charge was immediately puzzled. That's strange. Can Lu Xing fly? Why can't I find him? Indeed, Qin Yu can fly. At the moment, he is sitting on the back of a black eagle, flying very high in the sky. Not even his shadow can be seen on the ground. The black eagle is really flying too high and too fast. Therefore, to check Qin Yu's identity is as difficult as ascending to the sky. High in the sky, Qin Yu is feeling the strong wind blowing. Father never allowed me to take part in his plan. Now I'm already a Xiantian master. Qin Yu is very excited. As soon as he thinks that his father knows he is a Xiantian master, Qin Yu becomes very excited. Moreover, Qin Yu is the first Xiantian external expert in the history of the Qianlong continent. When Qin Yu was young and ignorant, he thought that his father did not come to see him because he did not love him anymore. Therefore, he practiced very hard. After growing up, Qin Yu realized the truth. His father was wholeheartedly involved in the plan to destroy the Xiong clan. His eldest brother and second brother were also involved. Qin Yu wanted very much to help his father. However, his father refused him because he had not reached the Xiantian level yet. Finally, he, Qin Yu, became a Xiantian master. Xiao Hei, fly directly to Yen capital. Qin Yu crushes the golden mask and gets rid of all the items that could reveal his identity as a killer. Then he uses the appearance and bone-changing technique and turns back to Qin Yu's original appearance. Qin Yu can't wait any longer. Xiao Hei seems to know how Qin Yu feels. With a shrill cry, it flaps its wings and increases its speed again. It turns into a beam of black light and flies directly to Yen capital. Chapter 50. At the moment it is already late autumn. The autumn wind rises and the withered leaves fall. The peaceful white sand town has welcomed some special people. In an old house, the troops of Zhu San, the richest man on the Qianlong continent, and the team of experts dispatched by the Chu Emperor Xiongguang are gathered in this house. Both sides are very cautious, but their power levels are simply not on the same level. For some reason, Zhu San's team only has one Xiantian expert, and he is only at the early stage of the Xiantian stage. But the people dispatched by Xiongguang are all experts, including many Xiantian experts. I am Yi Feng. We've brought our stuff. What about yours? A handsome man says directly with an evil smile on his face. This Yi Feng is the younger brother of Yi Yen, the commander of the secret army, the Dominant Dragon Corps. He is also the vice-commander of the Dominant Dragon Corps. The leader of Zhu San's team is a fat old man. He says smilingly, "Do you still need to worry? We only have so few people, so we don't dare to deceive you. The corpse of the demonic saber-toothed tiger is intact. Bring it up." The fat old man shouts loudly. Immediately, 4 big men carry up the corpse of a dark red tiger up to 5 m long. The 16 sharp spikes on its body represent the identity of this tiger, a demonic saber-toothed tiger. A demonic beast is really a demonic beast. It's been so long, but its corpse hasn't rotted at all. Yi Feng says with a smile. The fat old man says with a shake of his head, "Mr. Yi, demonic beasts have exceptional bodies and will only rot after a long time. But we've also sprinkled some billowing dry powder on this saber-toothed tiger's corpse. That's why it hasn't rotted at all for such a long time." TSK, billowing dry powder. The richest man in the world deserves to be called the richest man in the world. Yi Feng clicks his tongue and praises. "All right, we've already checked the goods. You can also take a look at our stuff." Yi Feng waves his hand. A man behind him immediately takes out a jade case. When the case is opened, the square jade inside is emitting various 7-colored rays of light. The fat old man slightly narrows his eyes. He takes a look at the square jade, which glitters with various rays of light. In an instant, he raises his head and says smilingly, "No need to check it carefully. We believe in the royal family's reputation. Good. Let's have a pleasant cooperation. In the future, our boss will have many business deals with the royal family." Yi Feng nods his head in satisfaction. Men, retrieve the corpse of the saber-toothed tiger. At Yi Feng's command, 4 people came out from behind him and lifted up the huge corpse. The fat old man also took the trans-heaven diagram. The cooperation between the two parties was very sincere and very pleasant. At this moment, waves of faint, almost invisible smoke drifted over. Immediately, one person after another fell down powerlessly. The 4 burly men who were carrying the saber-toothed tiger's corpse also fell down instantly. Then, blood flowed out from their 7 orifices and they died on the spot. "Not good, the smoke is poisonous." The chubby old man's voice sounded at the same time. In just a short while, except for the fat old man, everyone on his side was poisoned to death. On Yi Feng's side, a large number of people had fallen one after another, leaving only 8 people standing. These 8 people were the Xiantian experts among the people who came this time. Innate masters could hold their breaths and perform innate embryonic breath. Of course, the poisonous fog was useless. Even if a Xiantian master inhaled a little bit of it, he would be able to quickly circulate his Xiantian qi to expel the poison. "Qin De's men." Yi Feng's voice became ice-cold. "Qin De, you even dared to meddle in His Majesty's affairs. Could it be you want to rebel?" Yi Feng's voice was very loud, so it spread directly outside the courtyard. This place was the territory of the 3 eastern region counties. Apart from East vanquishing Prince Qin De, who else would know about this matter? Even if he knew, who else would have the guts to meddle? Rebel? That bastard Xiong Guang has Zhen Su's help, so he must have known about His Highness's affairs. Even though things have come to this point, we still have to establish a memorial arch. For the moment, we won't exterminate your Xiong clan publicly. But, as long as we kill all of you, Xiong Guang won't have enough evidence. An aged voice rose. Lien Yen led a total of 3 people into the courtyard. Seeing that the 3 of them were not afraid of the poisonous fog, they were obviously Xiantian experts. However, there were only 3 of them while Yi Feng's side had 8 people. That fat old man was also a Xiantian expert. But even Yi Feng's expression became unsightly. East vanquishing prince, our boss is... The fat old man wanted to say something, but... Whiz! A cold ray of light flashed. The fat old man died with his eyes wide open. A black-clad old man behind Lien Yen smiled grimly. He killed a Xiantian expert in one move. That fat old man simply had no power to resist. East vanquishing Prince Qin De's side had 3 people altogether. 2 late-stage Xiantian experts and Lien Yen, a peak Xiantian super expert. Peak Xiantian experts are at the peak of the late stage of the Xiantian realm. After reaching peak Xiantian experts will have to undergo the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation. East vanquishing prince is really powerful. But if you want to rob us with only 3 people, you're really looking down on us too much. Yi Feng said coldly. There were still 7 people behind Yi Feng. Only one of them was at the late stage of the Xiantian realm. The others were mostly at the middle stage or early stage of the Xiantian realm. Yi Feng himself was only at the middle stage of the Xiantian realm. In terms of power, the 3 experts sent by Qin De, especially the peak Xiantian Lien Yen, were simply unrivaled. Gentlemen, don't talk nonsense with them. Let's fight directly. Lien Yen said indifferently. Yes, Senior Lien. The 2 black-clad old men bowed and said. Among Qin De's subordinates, Lien Yen had an extremely high position. No matter who it was, when they met Lien Yen, they would all call him Senior Lien. This was not only because Lien Yen was powerful, but also because of his seniority. Yi Feng's eyes flashed with coldness. Besiege them. Kill the late-stage Xiantian experts first. Immediately, the 8 Xiantian experts, including Yi Feng, charge at Lien Yen and his 2 companions. Lien Yen, however, remained motionless with an indifferent smile. The 2 black-clad old men behind Lien Yen also charged at them side by side. Swish! Lien Yan's body flashed and disappeared into thin air. The only late-stage Xiantian expert among the 8 people of Yi Feng's group suddenly had a bad feeling. Following the fear in his heart, he immediately hacked diagonally backwards with his saber. With a bang, Lien Yan's body appeared in front of him. He gave a faint smile. Your reaction is pretty fast. Suddenly, a brilliant saber light bloomed. The late-stage Xiantian expert hurriedly raised his saber to block. However, the saber passed through his body, and a sharp Xiantian saber energy pierced through his body, directly piercing into his body. Then, with a pang sound, his body exploded. The only late-stage Xiantian expert had died. Lien Yen could not help giving a faint smile. However, before Lien Yen can withdraw his saber, his face changes color. His body immediately flashes and he dodges far away. However, a sharp whistling sound still rises and a bloody mark appears on Lien Yan's face. Immediately, the scuffle comes to an end. The middle-aged man dressed in pink looked at Lien Yen smilingly. Qing Yu, it's you. Lien Yan's eyes glittered with fierceness. Lord Father. Seeing the middle-aged man dressed in pink, Yi Feng hurriedly bowed and said. This middle-aged man was none other than Elder Yu, the actual leader of this team. He was also the father of Yi Yen, the commander of the Dominant Dragon Corps and the former leader of the Dominant Dragon Corps. Yi Qing Yu was Elder Yu's name. Lien Yen, you're still as impressive as you were in the past. I was just a bit slow and you killed a late-stage Xiantian expert. But, This time, Lian Yen, you won't be able to escape. I Ching Yu gave a faint smile, as brilliant as a gorgeous peach blossom. A cold light flashed between his slender fingers. Chapter 51. Lian Yen takes a look at I Ching Yu. His eyes radiate an unprecedented brilliance. If Qin Yu were here, he would definitely find it strange. Because Lian Yen is usually very indifferent. Even in Misty Villa, he mostly just sits there quietly. He is rarely excited, especially as excited as he is now. Qing Yu, do you still remember 160 years ago? Lian Yen says with a smile. I Ching Yu ponders for a while, then bursts out laughing. Lian Yen, do you still remember the battle 160 years ago? But at that time you were really too weak. You couldn't even protect your own daughter and wife. Luckily for you, East Vanquishing Prince's men came and saved your life. This time you won't be able to run away. Reaching the Xiantian level, a person's life expectancy can reach 500 years. Both I Ching Yu and Lian Yen have lived for several hundred years and have reached the peak of the Xiantian level. However, they have never had to face the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation. Some people face the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation on the day they reach the peak of the Xiantian level. Some people die of old age without facing the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation. This depends on one's perception. It simply can't be forced. Run. Why run? I've waited for over 100 years just for this day. Lian Yan's eyes suddenly flash with fierceness. You kill the others. I'll deal with I Ching Yu. Yes. The two black-clad old men immediately bow and say. Lian Yen, however, stares at I Ching Yu. A fierce aura of power surges towards I Ching Yu. It is so fierce and overbearing that the saber at Lian Yan's waist also starts to tremble. I Ching Yu slightly frowns. Then he stretches out his fingers like an orchid and greets Lian Yen with a smile. The two of them confront each other, but neither of them rushes to attack first. Reaching the peak of the Xiantian level requires at least 100 years if you don't have treasures of nature or top-notch godly techniques. Only if you have top-notch techniques such as the Ancestor Dragon Arts or get some treasures of nature from the Untainted Land can you reach this level within several decades. Ah! Miserable cries rise. The sound of fighting continues. The two black-clad old men charge at Yi Feng and the other 7 people. Severed limbs fly up and blood scatters all over the ground. The two black-clad old men are also somewhat injured. But under the siege of the 7 people, they still manage to kill one and cripple the other. However, I Ching Yu and Lian Yen simply don't look at those people. Clang! The battle saber at Lian Yan's waist suddenly comes out of its scabbard. A swift and fierce saber light immediately blooms. In a flash, it has already arrived in front of I Ching Yu and slashed his body. Lian Yen reaches out his hand and grabs the saber. Like lightning, he follows the saber light and also charges at I Ching Yu. The saber light flashed, and the figure disappeared. The blade light streaked across I Ching Yu's body, and I Ching Yu's body turned into nothingness. Ah! A black-robed old man suddenly screamed as a tiny hole appeared between his eyebrows. Then, Yi Feng and the others tore it into pieces. I Ching Yu's figure appeared on the other side. His orchid-like fingers gently pinched an embroidery needle. Lian Yen, you should know that my speed is the fastest, right? Why did you use that move? I Ching Yu says with a slight flick of his sleeve. Suddenly his face changes color, because he finds that Lian Yen has disappeared. I Ching Yu immediately closes his eyes. With a flash, I Ching Yu's body also suddenly disappears. At the same time, a series of clanging sounds of metal hitting metal rises. At the same time, the two figures appear in front of everybody. But in an instant, the two figures disappear again. Bang! 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 Only a series of clashing sounds can be heard. The speed of the two figures has completely reached the limit. Given the physiological function of human eyes, they are simply unable to see clearly. Ha ha ha! Delightful, delightful. Lien Yan's loud laughter suddenly rises. His laughter is full of aggressiveness and heroism. Lien Yan, I didn't expect you to really have some skills. Yi Qing Yu's somewhat feminine voice also rises. Flowers of blood scatter in the air. But the two figures are so fast that other people simply can't see them clearly. Suddenly, the two figures appear, standing in confrontation with each other. A tiny hole has appeared on Lien Yan's chest, from which blood is flowing out. Yi Qing Yu is also not as free and easy as he used to be. At the moment, his hair is disheveled and there is an obvious saber wound on his abdomen. Blood is also flowing out from the wound. Ha ha. Lien Yan suddenly turns his face upwards and laughs for a long time. Flowers bloom and wilt, spring goes and autumn comes. For so many years, I, Lien Yan, have been waiting for this day. When Li died in my arms, I no longer had any interest in life. Living in this world, without feelings, what was the point of living? Money, power, I don't care about any of them. When Li died, I lived in this world to remember the past and to kill you. But for so many years, you've always been hiding in the depths of the dominant Dragon Corps' headquarters. This time, Lien Yan's eyes are completely fixed on Yi Qing Yu. God is helping me. I've finally found you. Haha, Yi Qing Yu, come on. Let's fight to our heart's content. A dazzling golden light bursts out from Lien Yan's body. Afterwards, Lien Yan's whole body becomes as dazzling as a golden sun. His body is covered with a tough protective aura. His aura is so strong that it far surpasses that of Zhan Su. Yi Qing Yu frowns slightly when he feels Lien Yan's aggressiveness and indomitable momentum. Old man, you're really hard to deal with. Yi Qing Yu says impatiently. Various silvery black rays of light start to appear on Yi Qing Yu's body. His hair also floats up. Each strand of hair is flickering with a sharp light. The embroidery needle in his hand, however, is very inconspicuous. Boom! An explosion suddenly rises. With Yi Qing Yu and Lien Yan as the center, the air within a radius of 10 m explodes. The only remaining black-clad old man on one side is being besieged by the 4 men led by Yi Feng. Just now, when he killed one of them, he has already been seriously injured. These 4 men are all middle Xiantian experts. Even though he is in the late Xiantian stage, he has after all been seriously injured. It will be difficult for him to kill 4 of them by himself. Suddenly, a series of explosions rise. The ground of the entire courtyard is blown up, causing dust to rise. The violent forces force the 4 men and the black-clad old man have no choice but to retreat to one side and stop fighting for the moment. They all look at the center of the courtyard. Heart-piercing arrows. Yi Qing Yu's sharp voice rises. His whole head of silver hair turns into sharp arrows and thrusts straight at Lien Yan in front of him. A hint of arrogance appears on Yi Qing Yu's face. It is impossible for him to make each of his silver hairs powerful enough to break Lien Yan's protective upstanding qi. His real killing move is the embroidery needles hidden in his silver hair. Bang! Lien Yan's battle saber is chopped down. However, a bunch of Yi Qing Yu's long hair curls around the saber, making it impossible for Lien Yan to chop down. At the same time, countless strands of hair thrust straight at Lien Yan's whole body like sharp arrows. Moreover, the 10 embroidery needles hidden in the hair also attack Lien Yan with frightening strength. Lien Yan notices the embroidery needles, but he doesn't dodge because he doesn't want to. Now that he has taken his revenge, living will be a kind of mental exhaustion. Ha ha ha! Lien Yan suddenly turns his face upwards and laughs loudly. His laughter shakes the sky. Ah! With a miserable cry, Yi Qing Yu's head flies up into the air. His wide-open eyes are filled with disbelief. His hair has also been chopped off. Yi Qing Yu's head rolls on the ground and is covered with dust. Yi Feng and the others, who are watching the fight on one side, are stupefied. 10 holes have also appeared in Lien Yan's chest. The 10 embroidery needles have pierced into his body, but he is still laughing. At the moment, there is a dark red battle saber in his hand. This battle saber is a middle-grade holy weapon forged from in-rock flaming iron. Lien Yen has always kept it inside his body. At the beginning, Lien Yen was only using his old weapon, but at the most critical moment, he suddenly took out this middle-grade holy weapon and chopped off Yi Qing Yu's long silver hair and chopped off Yi Qing Yu's head. Yi Qing Yu's speed is extremely fast. If he had known earlier that Lien Yen had such a holy weapon battle saber, perhaps he would have run away early on. Sitting on the back of a black eagle and soaring high in the sky, Qin Yu feels extremely carefree. What a powerful aura! Xiao Hei, stop! Qin Yu can clearly sense a terrifyingly powerful aura below. Even though there is a long distance between them and the ground, that aura is really too powerful. Even ordinary Xiantian experts can sense it. Moreover, Qin Yu's senses are very sensitive, so naturally he can sense it. It's Grandpa Lien's aura. Qin Yu identifies it carefully and discovers it. Xiao Hei, get down! Qin Yu says without hesitation. The black eagle dives down at once. In just a short while, Qin Yu sees the small courtyard from the sky. At the moment, Lien Yen has chopped off Yi Qing Yu's head with a single blow. Ha ha ha. Lien Yen turns his face upwards and laughs out loud. Tears, however, flow down from his eyes. With a glance, Qin Yu sees one hole after another in Lien Yan's chest. Those are the holes caused by the 10 embroidery needles. Qin Yu is proficient in the art of medicine, so he immediately judges that those holes are the vital parts of the human body. Looking at those holes one after another, Qin Yu immediately becomes stupefied as if he has been struck by a bolt from the blue. Chapter 52. Qin Yu's mind is completely blank. A feeling of suffocation makes him feel dizzy. After a while, but to Qin Yu's mind, it seems to be a very long time, Qin Yu completely recovers. Grandpa Lien. Qin Yu's hoarse voice suddenly rises. At the same time, Qin Yu jumps down from the black eagle's back and arrives at Lien Yan's side in an instant. Lien Yan raises his head and sees Qin Yu jump down. A faint kind smile appears on his face. Xiao Yu, you've unexpectedly come. To be able to see you before I die, God really treats me well. Even though he has been seriously injured to the point of death, no one can tell that he has been seriously injured just by looking at the way he talks. Grandpa Lien. Qin Yu does not know what to say. Looking at those terrible injuries, Qin Yu's tears flow down. Xiao Yu, don't cry. It's normal to get old, get sick, and die. Your Grandpa Lien has lived long enough. Even if I die now, it's no big deal. Lien Yen wipes the tears from Qin Yu's face and persuades him. Suddenly Lien Yen slightly frowns and immediately sits down on the ground. Grandpa Lien, let's go. I'll take you to see a doctor. Qin Yu says and is about to carry Lien Yen onto the black eagle's back. Xiao Yu, don't bother. I know you're proficient in medicine. Looking at my injuries, don't you know that I'm about to die? Your Grandpa Lien's injuries are extremely serious now. It's only by relying on the vigorous Xiantian energy in my body that I can talk to you for a while. Lien Yen says with a smile. Qin Yu bites his lips. Even though he is unwilling to admit it, he can also tell that what his Grandpa Lien said is true. At the moment, Lien Yen is relying entirely on the Xiantian energy in his body to support himself. Ah! Father! Go quickly! Kill that black-clad old man first, then kill that old bastard. Yi Feng's resentful voice rises. Yi Feng can also tell that Lien Yen has been seriously injured to the point of death and basically has no power to resist. A hint of coldness flashes through Qin Yu's eyes. Xiao Yu, don't be rash. Hurry up and leave. The four of them are all mid-stage Xiantian experts. That black-clothed old man is your father's subordinate. Now that he's seriously injured, he won't be able to hold on for much longer. Lien Yen hurriedly advises Qin Yu. Although Qin Yu has reached the Xiantian realm, Lien Yen simply cannot see it. When the experts of the hidden dragon continent observe each other's strength, they sense the qi in each other's body. After reaching the Xiantian realm, one's body would be filled with Xiantian true qi, which was very simple. However, Qin Yu was different from any other Xiantian master. He did not have any Xiantian Zhen Qi in his body. His strength lay in his body, his strength, and his speed. Therefore, even Lien Yen is unable to see through Qin Yu's power. After all, it was very difficult to accurately judge the strength of a person's muscles. Grandpa Lien, don't worry. I have the confidence to deal with them. Grandpa Lien, let me tell you a secret. I've already reached the Xiantian realm. The Xiantian realm of external martial arts was completely different from the Xiantian realm of internal martial arts. At the moment, Qin Yu's only thought is to make Lien Yen a bit happier. Lien Yan's eyes brighten. You've reached the Xiantian realm in external martial arts? Since ancient times, no one has been able to reach the Xiantian realm in external martial arts. Seeing Qin Yu's eyes, Lien Yen knows in his heart that Qin Yu did not deceive him. However, as a dying man, Lien Yan's heart is comforted and he calms down very quickly. Ah! A miserable cry is heard. The already seriously injured black-clad old man has been killed by the 4 Xiantian experts. Ha ha, old man, you unexpectedly dared to kill my father. I'm going to cut you into pieces. I'm going to let you die a horrible death. Yi Feng stares at Lien Yen with extreme hatred. His entire handsome face becomes ferocious. At the moment, Lien Yan's face turns pale. Qin Yu's face changes color. He knows that Lien Yen is about to die. He hurriedly holds Lien Yen. Shut up. Qin Yu suddenly shouts coldly at Yi Feng. The cold light in his eyes is like a sharp knife stabbing at Yi Feng. He doesn't want Lien Yen to be disturbed before he dies. Yi Feng is stupefied by Qin Yu's shout. That look in his eyes especially stupefies Yi Feng for a moment. Qin Yu looks at his Grandpa Lien. At the moment, he only wants Grandpa Lien to leave this world peacefully. Lien Yen looks at the sky. His eyes are bewildered. He remembers the scene when he met his lover for the first time at the Golden Phoenix Pool. The reflection of dew flowers, the green smoke, the warm waves of the spirit swamp. The golden willows swaying in the wind, the trees and trees, the colorful boat, the dragon boat, the distant shore. The 1,000-step rainbow bridge, the jagged goose teeth, lead straight to the water palace. Around the golden dike, the graceful fish and dragon play, the delicate spring silk, the heavenly silk pipes. Yen capital, the golden phoenix pool, the beautiful figure of my lover is still there. His voice gradually lowers. When Lien Yen dies, there is also a smile on his face. Qin Yu is still young. He hasn't experienced many things, so he can't understand Lien Yan's heart. But he can feel that when his Grandpa Lien dies, he is relaxed and calm, without the slightest sadness. Grandpa Lien. Qin Yu says in a low voice, trembling. From childhood to adulthood, the one who has been with Qin Yu the longest is Lien Yen. When he was in the prince's mansion, it was Lien Yen who brought him up. When they went to Misty Villa, it was also Lien Yen who brought him up. It can be said that the time Lien Yen has been with him is much longer than that of his father Qin De. Boy, are you done being sad? Yi Feng says with a cold smile. Qin Yu simply cannot bear to look at Yi Feng. Yi Feng, however, is extremely angry. A moment ago he was unexpectedly stupefied by Qin Yu's angry shout. Of course he is angry and ashamed. But he is not a playboy. Moreover, the one he hates the most in his heart at the moment is Lien Yen. Because Lien Yen killed his father. Father, I've been unfilial. Now I'll avenge you. Yi Feng kneels down in front of Yi Qin Yu's corpse and says. Then he turns around and stands up. He orders coldly, attack. Kill that boy. That old bastard dared to kill my father. I'll definitely cut him into pieces and torture his corpse to the extreme to avenge my father. Yes, sir. The 3 middle-stage Xiantian experts bow and say at once. In their eyes, a boy like Qin Yu is simply not worth their attention. What did you just say? Qin Yu gently puts down Lien Yan's body and slowly stands up. His ice-cold and sharp eyes shoot straight at Yi Feng. Yi Feng slightly narrows his eyes. Cut that old bastard into pieces. What's wrong? A faint evil smile appears on Yi Feng's face. He then stares at his three subordinates. You three, tell that boy what the consequences will be if he dares to meddle in other people's business. Brothers, it's just a little boy. I can handle him by myself. A short man says with a smile. Qin Yu, however, slightly narrows his eyes. Various streaks of cold light leak out from his eyes. Boy, prepare to die. The short man's body flashes and the long saber in his hand slashes towards Qin Yu. His speed is much faster than that of the Nalan siblings. Unfortunately, the current Qin Yu has made a lot of progress compared to the Qin Yu who killed Jian Su that day. A pair of dark red gloves suddenly appear on Qin Yu's fists. They are middle-grade holy weapons, flaming gloves. With a movement of Qin Yu's body, 3 blurs appear. At the same time, with a crisp sound of metal clashing, that Xian-grade battle saber is unexpectedly smashed into pieces. However, the iron fist that has smashed the battle saber turns into a beam of light and thrusts straight at the short man's throat. The fingers of the fist are a penetrating attack. The short man, who is still in shock because his war saber has been shattered, simply doesn't have time to react. Qin Yu's punching power, which is equivalent to 1000 Jin, is completely concentrated at that point. With a bang, a hole directly appears in the short man's throat. Boom! The short man's eyes are wide open. With a loud bang, he falls to the ground and can no longer stand up. His eyes are wide open as if he still can't believe what just happened. Yi Feng and the other 2 middle-grade Xiantian masters have their mouths wide open. For a moment, they don't close their mouths. They look at Qin Yu in shock, then look at the dead middle-grade Xiantian master lying on the ground. In their minds, they recall Qin Yu's amazing speed just now and how he directly shattered the Xiantian-grade war saber. You 3, prepare to be buried with my Grandpa Lien. The power in Qin Yu's body is surging. Even the power in the depths of his cells has begun to boil. How strong is the strongest attack of a Xiantian master? Chapter 53. Qin Yu stares at the 3 men in front of him with cold, murderous eyes. Lien Yan's death has filled Qin Yu's heart with resentment and unwillingness. Now the 3 men in front of him have obviously become the targets for Qin Yu to vent his anger. Moreover, these 3 men are also on the same side as Yi Qin Yu, the man who killed his Grandpa Lien. Phew, it's just a little guy. Just now Shorty was careless. Don't be scared by him. Yi Feng suddenly shakes his head then stares at Qin Yu like a viper. Skinny, ugly, let's go together and kill this brat directly. Hearing Yi Feng's order, Yi Feng's 2 subordinates immediately nod. Just now they were also shocked by Qin Yu killing their partner in one move. Only when the 3 of them join forces will they have enough courage. Yi Feng and the other 2 men all stare at Qin Yu. The Xiantian energy in their bodies starts to boil. The 3 men's energy spreads out and completely envelopes Qin Yu. At the moment, Qin Yu is like a turtle in a jar. Bang! Bang! He takes off the black iron arm guards and leg guards and casually throws them aside. They hit the blue stones of the courtyard with a loud bang. Yi Feng and the other 2 men's faces change color greatly at once. Just now Qin Yu was so fast and he was even carrying weights. Grandpa Lien, please wait a moment. After Xiao Yu kills them, I'll take you back. Qin Yu says in a low voice. Qin Yu cannot help recalling the times he spent with Lien Yan when he was little. When he was a child, Qin Yu stayed by Lien Yan's side all day long and asked Lien Yan to tell him stories. During Lien Yan's stories, Qin Yu fell asleep again and again. Once upon a time there was a gifted scholar who studied hard for 10 years. Every time Lien Yan told a story, he would always start with, "Once upon a time there was a..." When Qin Yu closes his eyes, he can remember the scene when Lien Yan told him stories in front of his bed until he fell asleep. That scene was so warm. However, from now on, that kind Grandpa Lien will never be seen again. Qin Yu's eyes cannot help becoming slightly moist. Who? With a flash of his figure, Qin Yu disappeared without the slightest sound. Ah! Qin Yu clenched his teeth and punched the skinny man's abdomen with all his strength. Qin Yu could now support a weight of 2,000 to 3,000 jin with one hand, but his punch was over 10,000 jin. The impact was terrifying. Boom! The skinny man's abdomen shook violently, but it didn't break. Instead, the skinny man's eyes bulged out, and blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. His internal organs were completely shattered by the force of the punch, which weighed nearly 10,000 pounds. Under the impact of nearly 10,000 jin, the thin man's Xiantian true qi couldn't withstand it. He had killed a middle-stage Xiantian expert with a single punch. However, Qin Yu's mind couldn't help but recall one scene after another. Those warm and familiar scenes that Qin Yu would never forget for the rest of his life. Grandpa Lien, quickly open the door. I'm Xiao Yu. I have something to tell you. Quickly open the door. Qin Yu shouted impatiently. In a short moment, the light in the room was turned on. Little Yu, Grandpa had just fallen asleep and was woken up by you. Following an amiable voice, the door to the room was opened. A kind-looking old man in his 60s draped in a coat appeared in front of Qin Yu. That night, Qin Yu's Grandpa Lien explained in detail the differences between internal and external techniques, and the differences between Houtian masters, Xiantian masters, and Shangxian. That night, Grandpa Lien's kind words revealed a world of cultivation to Qin Yu. A smile appeared on Qin Yu's face. It was as if he had returned to that small room at night, with a kind Grandpa Lien in the room. Ugly, be careful! Yi Feng shouted loudly. A cold light shot from his hand towards Qin Yu. Qin Yu didn't dodge at all. He punched out, and with a sound of metal clashing, the embroidery needle turned into powder. Like a gust of wind, Qin Yu arrived beside Ugly. Go to hell! Ugly fiercely chopped at Qin Yu with his saber. Ah! Ugly suddenly uttered a miserable cry. Just now Qin Yu's kick directly broke Ugly's knee with a terrifying force. Then he directly grabbed Ugly's spine with one hand, using the flaming gloves as a claw. The force of his fingers directly acted on Ugly's spine through the flaming gloves. With a miserable scream, Ugly fell down on the ground. His whole body twitched non-stop. Streams of blood oozed out of his mouth. The scenes in Qin Yu's mind continuously flashed through his mind, from when he was a child to when he grew up. Those scenes of him being together with Lien Yen cannot help causing a smile to appear on Qin Yu's face. It is a smile that comes from the bottom of his heart, like the smile of a child meeting a relative or an elder. Qin Yu raised his head and looked at Yi Feng with such a smile. You're the only one left. Seeing Qin Yu's heartfelt smile, Yi Feng felt a chill in his heart. In just a short moment, 2 middle Xiantian experts were killed just like that. Yi Feng himself was only at the middle Xiantian level, so his reaction was, run. Very quickly, the scene in Qin Yu's mind suddenly changed. He recalled the scene just now, when he saw on the back of the Black Eagle that there were 10 holes in Lien Yan's body. Qin Yu's face immediately changed color. Qin Yu fixed his eyes on Yi Feng in front of him. With a movement of his body, Qin Yu turned into several afterimages. Go to hell! Don't chase me! Go to hell! Yi Feng screamed in fear. At the same time, he shot one embroidery needle after another at Qin Yu. Seeing the embroidery needle shooting at him with an ice-cold light, Qin Yu's eyes suddenly burst out with a dazzling light. He seemed to see the scene of his Grandpa Lien being pierced with so many holes all over his body by embroidery needles. Ah! A hoarse roar rose. Yi Feng immediately trembled. He could clearly feel that the roar was approaching him extremely fast. No matter how much Xiantian internal qi he stimulated, his speed was still far inferior to that of the person chasing after him. Since he could not escape, Yi Feng suddenly screamed and turned around. Holding the embroidery needle with both hands, he stabbed it at Qin Yu. Bang! 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 The needle was broken. The arm was broken. There was also a pair of wide-open eyes filled with disbelief. Successive explosions were accompanied by Yi Feng's miserable screams. Qin Yu's iron fists smashed the embroidery needle and Yi Feng's arms. In the end, Qin Yu's right fist slightly protruded and formed into a fist, attacking Yifeng directly between the eyebrows. A powerful penetrating force was transmitted directly into the brain. Withdrawing his hand, Qin Yu turned around and walked towards Lien Yen, not even looking at Yifeng. Boom! Yifeng fell down on the ground with a loud crash. Streams of blood slowly flowed out from his mouth and nose. He was already dead. In a short moment, 4 middle-stage Xiantian experts were all killed by Qin Yu. After practicing the 36 diagrams of the first Transheaven diagram, Qin Yu's power has improved a lot. However, even with the help of a middle-grade holy weapon, Qin Yu's power was at most on par with Zhan Su's. But the opponents were 4 middle-stage Xiantian experts. Logically, even if he won, it should not have been so easy. But Qin Yu was best at group fighting. He simply did not care about the number of opponents. Even though there were 4 opponents, given Qin Yu's body maneuvering skill, Qin Yu was only facing 1 opponent in every real fight. Grandpa Lien, let's go home. Qin Yu walked to Lien Yan's side and said amiably. His tone was just like how Qin Yu usually talked to Lien Yan. Qin Yu even seemed to regard Lien Yan as a living person. Chapter 54. At this moment, the sound of rapid footsteps rises from outside the courtyard. Along with the sound of strong wind, an old man in blue appears in the courtyard with a group of people. Seeing the scene in the courtyard, the old man's face changes color. Qin Yu raises his head slightly and gives the old man in blue a cold look. Seeing Qin Yu's face, the old man in blue kneels down at once and says, "Your Highness, I'm late." Late. Qin Yu repeats in a low voice. His heart is filled with anger. If they had come a bit earlier, perhaps his grandpa Lien would not have died. However, these people are late. Moreover, Qin Yu has seen this old man in blue beside his father before, so he knows he is one of his father's trusted subordinates. Take the things here back to the mansion. As for Grandpa Lien, I'll take him back myself. Qin Yu's voice is cold and emotionless. Qin Yu puts on the black iron arm guards and leg guards, then holds Lien Yan in his arms. Following Qin Yu's long whistle, the black eagle turns into a black light and dives down. Qin Yu's figure flashes and he climbs on the eagle's back. Xiaohei, go back to the mansion. Qin Yu says softly. The black eagle seems to feel the sadness in Qin Yu's heart. It does not play around like it did in the past. Instead, it flaps its wings and rushes back to the mansion in Yen City at the fastest speed. The old man in blue watches Qin Yu disappearing into the horizon on the back of the black eagle. He slightly frowns, then orders his subordinates, "Quick, lift the saber-toothed tiger up quickly and send it back to the mansion as quickly as possible." The old man in blue, however, takes the second Transheaven diagram himself. Lien Yan is dead, but Qin Yu is also dead. It's not too bad. But His Highness and Lien Yan are very close. The old man in blue frowns deeply. Obviously, he feels something is wrong. In the mansion in Yen City, Qin De and Su Yuan are sitting opposite each other under an old tree. They are playing Go quietly. "Your Highness, you've lost again." Su Yuan gently puts down a white piece and says smilingly. Qin De watched for a long time before shaking his head with a smile. "Su Yuan, your chess skills are getting more and more exquisite. Even I am no match for you." Su Yuan looked at Qin De and shook his head. It's not that Su Yuan's chess skills have improved. It's just that His Highness is unable to calm down today. Qin De sighed and said, "Indeed. Today, I always feel my heart beating and I can't calm down. I've always been worried about Uncle Lien. Logically speaking, with Uncle Lien's current strength and 2 late-stage Xiantian experts, it shouldn't be a problem to resolve this matter." "Don't worry, Your Highness. Senior Lien is extremely powerful. There aren't many people on Xiangguang's side who can injure him." Su Yuan says smilingly. Suddenly, Qin De stood up and looked up at the sky. The black eagle swooped down and flew towards Qin Yu's location at an extremely fast speed. Sitting cross-legged on the back of the black eagle was Qin Yu. Qin immediately smiled. He had been waiting for Qin Yu's return. Qin Yu had left him so much in-rock flaming iron, which was a huge fortune for him. Of course, he had to reward Qin Yu. However, Qin's smile froze because he saw that there was another person in Qin Yu's bosom. Bang! Qin Yu jumped down from the back of the Black Eagle and landed on the ground. Holding Lien Yen, Qin Yu just looked at Qin at the same level without moving. Seeing Lien Yen in Qin Yu's bosom, Qin's face immediately turned pale. He tried hard to control himself and walked towards Lien Yen step by step. Lien Yan's pale face, which had a smile on it, appeared in his eyes. "Father, Grandpa Lien is dead." Qin Yu's voice is calm, but it contains extreme grief. How could this be? Did Uncle Lien have a holy weapon? Qin's eyes moistened in the blink of an eye. After a while, he suddenly asked Qin Yu, let me ask you, was there a person called Qin Yu on Xiangguang's side? Qin Yu said with a shake of his head, I don't know. I don't know who those people are. Seeing the holes on Lien Yan's body, Qin said with a sigh, these are wounds caused by embroidery needles. On Xiangguang's side, only Qin Yu was able to use embroidery needles and hurt Uncle Lien. Uncle Lien has finally been freed. Qin had experienced many things in his life, so naturally he could see what was on Lien Yan's mind. The person who killed Grandpa Lien has already been killed by Grandpa Lien with a slash of his saber. Qin Yu said directly. When he was on the back of the Black Eagle, he was attracted by the aura of the fight between Lien Yen and Qin Yu. When he came down, he happened to see Lien Yen kill the opponent and then turn his face upwards and laugh loudly. Qin took a deep breath and slightly nodded. Uncle Lien has been freed. You don't have to be too sad. On the contrary, you should feel happy for your Grandpa Lien. Qin Yu, however, did not say anything. He only looked at Lien Yen in his bosom. After a while, some servants of the prince's mansion took Lien Yan's body. Qin Yu watched Lien Yan's body being carried away, but he remained silent for a long time. Then he said indifferently, Father, I'm not in a good mood, so I'm going back to rest first. Don't let anyone disturb me. After saying so, Qin Yu immediately turned around and walked towards his own courtyard house. In the courtyard house, Qin Yu was sitting quietly on a stone bench, looking at the willow tree in front of him. The willow branches were fluttering in the wind. Qin Yu seemed to see the scene of himself and Lien Yen playing here when they were children. Whoosh! With a movement of his body, Qin Yu unexpectedly started to dance in the courtyard. He completely followed the movements of the 36 diagrams on the first piece of the Trans-Heaven diagram. Qin Yu basically did not think too much. He just kept performing those movements extremely fast. 36 arm-thick streams of holy aura of heaven and earth intertwined with each other in a ring, as if they were wrapping Qin Yu in armor. Afterwards, these auras seeped into Qin Yu's body. Qin Yu's tears silently dripped down. Qin Yu's speed, however, became faster and faster. He was not practicing martial arts at all but was merely venting. Naturally, his movements also became faster and faster. The 36 movements became faster and faster. In the end, his whole body flashed like a gust of wind in the courtyard house. The holy aura of heaven and earth became denser and denser. The faster Qin Yu's speed became, the denser the holy aura of heaven and earth became. In the end, when Qin Yu had transformed into a cool breeze, the 36 streams of holy aura of heaven and earth unexpectedly produced a faint silvery light. When the streams of holy aura of heaven and earth merged with his whole body suddenly trembled. Ah! A heart-wrenching and tearing pain came from his body. Qin Yu suddenly stopped. The muscles on his face trembled and tears gushed out from his eyes. Without the slightest bit of restraint, he faced the sky and roared. It was unknown whether it was because of the tearing pain in his body or the pain in his heart. Qin Yu just roared like this. His voice went on until there was no more qi in his body. Only then did he stop. Then Qin Yu continued to breathe roughly. Qin's voice rose outside. Qin Yu took a deep breath and tried hard to calm down, saying, Father, let me calm down for a while. During this time, don't let anyone disturb me. Just give me this time, okay? The outside of the courtyard house was quiet for a long time. Then the sound of footsteps gradually faded away. Chapter 55. Qin Yu is sitting motionlessly beside the stone table in the courtyard house. He has been sitting like this for a whole day and night. Qin Yu is either smiling or grieving. However, at this moment Qin Yu suddenly gives a faint smile. This faint smile is like a breeze blowing away all the sadness and sorrow. Qin Yu slowly stands up and looks up at the sky. He's already dead, so it's useless to grieve. Grandpa Lien, you're watching from the sky. I definitely won't let you down. Qin Yu says calmly in his mind. Then a goo-goo sound rises. Qin Yu gives a smile. I didn't expect that after not eating or drinking for a whole day and night, I'm still quite hungry. As he is saying, Qin Yu directly orders the servants to bring some food to him. In his room, Qin De is staring at the military map on the wall. Your Highness, Xiao Yu just ordered the servants to bring in some food. Judging from His Highness's tone and demeanor, he should have almost recovered. Su Yuan goes to Qin De's side and says smilingly, "Oh." Qin De's furrowed brows loosened, and a smile appeared on his face. Yu has a tenacious temperament. He won't be so useless as to completely immerse himself in grief. Hearing this news, Qin De also felt relieved. All right, we don't need to worry about you now. Su Yuan, you come and take a look. If we send 30,000 fierce tiger troops here. Qin De immediately starts to discuss with Su Yuan. Qin Yu is eating the sumptuous food, but he is thinking about something else in his mind. If father wants to achieve something big, I must join him. In the past he refused me because I was not a Xiantian expert. Now I'm a Xiantian expert and an unprecedented Xiantian external expert. If I tell father. Qin Yu's eyes glitter. For so many years, Qin Yu has been working hard. He has been waiting for his father's affirmation. A Xiantian external expert, this is enough to make his father shocked and praise him. By the way, when I first returned to the courtyard that day, when I was performing the 36 movements of the first piece of the Transheaven diagram, when my speed reached an extremely fast speed, the pillar of spiritual chi of heaven and earth actually produced a silver light. That silver light also produced intense pain. Qin Yu recalled that scene. At that time, although Qin Yu remembered this matter, he was immersed in the pain of Lien Yan's death and didn't think about it carefully. Furthermore, it seems that the faster one cultivates, the denser the spiritual chi of heaven and earth absorbed. Let's try again. Qin Yu immediately made a decision in his heart. He finished his meal in 2 or 3 bites. Then, he threw away his chopsticks and his body turned into a gust of wind, flashing in the courtyard. Speed. The speed at which Qin Yu practiced those movements increased exponentially. 36 streams of heaven and earth spirit chi intertwined with each other, forming an armor that enveloped Qin Yu. As the speed increased, the solidification of the air pillar continued to increase. Specks of silver light were produced. There were very few of them, and there were only a few specks of silver light on the air pillar. This is the speed. Qin Yu's eyes brightened. He immediately stopped increasing the speed. He clearly felt that the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, which contained traces of silver light, fused into his body, causing his muscles and even his muscles to undergo rapid changes. His cells were torn apart and then repaired again. Intense pain came from the deepest part of his body, causing Qin Yu's face to turn deathly pale. Luckily, Qin Yu didn't increase the speed again. The silver light was still very good. Qin Yu could still bear the pain from a small part of his body. If there was too much silver light, his whole body would feel such intense pain. Even Qin Yu would feel terrible pain. His muscles continued to absorb the specks of silver light. Qin Yu discovered that the silver light seemed to be a type of extremely pure energy. It was much purer than the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. The speed at which his muscles were being tempered and transformed was increasing at a speed that he could clearly feel. At the same time, the air pillar continued to replenish the energy, fusing with Qin Yu's body. Very good, sure enough, the trans-heaven diagrams aren't that simple. How can it only absorb a bit of natural holy energy? But I don't know what mysteries the second and third diagrams have. Qin Yu thinks to himself, but his movements have slightly increased by a level. End of B3C4. Suddenly, the number of specks of starlight floating on the air pillar increased. Qin Yu's pain intensified. Qin Yu frowned slightly, but a trace of a smile appeared on his face. As time passed, 2 days later, the silver light seemed to have flowed all over Qin Yu's body. When the silver light flowed to the original place, Qin Yu didn't feel any pain, only a slight numbness. His muscles also didn't improve as quickly as before. In just 2 days, Qin Yu's muscle strength had definitely more than doubled. Speed, let's increase the speed again. Qin Yu continued to exercise. After 2 days of continuous exercise, Qin Yu didn't feel hungry at all. With so much spiritual qi of heaven and earth, it was enough to replenish his energy. As Qin Yu's speed increased, the silver light in the air pillar increased again. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth that contained the silver light seeped into his muscles and quickly moved from one muscle to another until it was completely absorbed. The faster the speed, the more special the silver light? What's going on? Now that my speed is increasing, why is there less silver light? Qin Yu finally discovered this problem. His current speed hadn't reached Qin Yu's limit. It should be known that Qin Yu was still carrying weights. Alright, let's continue at this speed. Qin Yu no longer increased his speed and continued to perform these movements according to this optimal speed. Following Qin Yu's movements, the 36 air pillars that contained the silver light seeped into Qin Yu's body. Waves of wonderful numbness were continuously produced, and the muscle strength of his whole body also slowly increased. Just when Qin Yu was immersed in this wonderful feeling, "Xiao Yu, it's been 3 days, why haven't you eaten anything?" Su Yuan's voice sounded outside the courtyard. When Qin Yu heard this, he couldn't help but be distracted, and his movements naturally slowed down. However, the moment he slowed down, the silver light in the 36 air pillars that wrapped Qin Yu's whole body suddenly increased, and the density actually doubled. Uncle Su. Just as Qin Yu said this word, he discovered that the numbness in his body increased greatly, and he also discovered the astonishing change just now. What's going on? Wasn't it the optimal state just now? Why did the silver light increase so much when I slowed down? Qin Yu's eyes suddenly lit up, like a torch in the dark night. Qin Yu suddenly felt a burst of excitement in his heart. It seemed that the movements in the 36 pictures weren't so simple. "Xiao Yu." Su Yuan's voice sounded again. Qin Yu hurriedly said, "Uncle Su, I'm concentrating on training, don't worry. I still have some food and water here. Uncle Su, I won't leave this courtyard, and don't let anyone disturb me. I want to concentrate on training. In other words, closed-door training. In closed-door training, in order to avoid being disturbed, an ordinary expert would prepare some food and water, and then start to concentrate on training in a place where no one would disturb them." Closed-door training? Su Yuan was slightly surprised, but Su Yuan wasn't an ordinary person. He said with a smile, "Okay, Xiao Yu, I'll immediately order people to prepare some food and water for you. You can peacefully train here, and no one will disturb you." "Thank you, Uncle Su." After Qin Yu finished speaking, he waited for the servants to bring him food and water. After that, he would go into closed-door training alone, and carefully ponder the mystery of the 36 pictures of the Through Heaven diagram. Chapter 56. In Qin Yu's courtyard, no one came to disturb him. Qin Yu's whole body turned into a series of phantoms, constantly moving in the courtyard. No, the speed has slowed down, but the density has not increased, but just now. Qin Yu frowned deeply. At this moment, he was using the 36 diagrams to slow down his movements, but the 36 air pillars that wrapped around his body did not even have the silver light. Qin Yu knows very well that just now, when he heard Su Yuan's words and began to slow down, the density of the holy energy beam in the air suddenly increased. At that moment, those silvery rays of light fused directly into his body like quicksand. Could it be? Qin Yu suddenly thought of a possibility. Suddenly, Qin Yu's movement sped up again, and the 36 intertwined air pillars once again gushed out bits of silver light, which continuously integrated into Qin Yu's body. That speed was what Qin Yu originally thought was the best speed, but suddenly, Qin Yu's speed slowed down. The wind rose, and the spiritual qi of heaven and earth shook, and the density of the 36 air pillars that surrounded Qin Yu's body suddenly increased. Qin Yu's eyes suddenly widened, and the dense silver light integrated into his body like dense silver sand. These silver light spots integrated into Qin Yu's muscles, bones, and meridians one by one, and an extreme feeling of numbness spread throughout his body. Awesome! Qin Yu was unable to restrain himself from shouting loudly. That feeling was indeed unprecedented, and it was 10,000 times more comfortable than a massage. However, in just a moment, the density of the silver light spots suddenly decreased, and it was even worse than the normal speed at the beginning. What's going on? Qin Yu finally stopped, and his heart was completely puzzled. From the looks of it now, it's useless to be fast all the time, and it's even worse to be in a constant state of slowing down. At the beginning, it was fast, but at the 16th movement, it suddenly slowed down, and the effect was excellent. Qin Yu thought in his heart. Could it be? Qin Yu's eyes lit up. Could it be that this movement is suitable for both fast and slow movements? Should the fast ones be fast, and the slow ones be slow, and intertwined with each other is the most suitable? When Qin Yu thought of this, he immediately began to experiment. First, move at a constant speed. Suddenly, speed up or slow down at a certain action to determine whether a certain action is suitable for fast or slow. However, the more Qin Yu researched, the more frustrated he became. For example, for the 16th movement, it was right to slow down, but there had to be a limit to how far it could be slowed down. Also, fast. How fast did he have to be? Moreover, their movements weren't rigid. They needed to be mediated. For the third movement, the right hand was below the side, while for the fourth movement, the right hand was above the side. Just the trajectory of the transformation required careful study. Different trajectories had different effects. In short, it was extremely difficult to create a perfect cultivation technique just by relying on these 36 abstruse diagrams. Studying again and again, Qin Yu completely calmed his heart and comprehended. With the passage of time, after an entire month, Qin Yu finally summed up the real cultivation method of this cultivation method, and a brand new, through heaven diagram, cultivation method appeared. 1 month later, Qin Yu's figure was seen floating in the courtyard like a gentle wind. When he was fast, it gave people the feeling that he was slow. But when he was slow, his whole body produced afterimages. Strange, extremely strange. The strangest thing was that a silver armor appeared on the surface of Qin Yu's body. No, it wasn't a silver armor, but 36 pure silver pillars of qi that were intertwined on the surface of Qin Yu's body, forming the appearance of armor. These 36 silver pillars of qi were constantly integrated into Qin Yu's body, and at the same time, they were also absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth from the outside to replenish it. Ha, great! Qin Yu suddenly stopped. His whole body swelled, and the 36 silver pillars of qi disappeared. The density of those silvery light dots had changed from the starry dots at the beginning to the current state where the entire air column was composed of silvery light dots. In the past month, Qin Yu's body had undergone a rapid change. Both his strength and speed had increased by several times. Qin Yu's eyes were slightly closed. The 36 diagrams formed a perfect set of movements. This set of movements was performed one by one in Qin Yu's mind, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. Qin Yu had finally figured out the first part of this through heaven diagram cultivation method. Qin Yu suddenly opened his eyes, emitting a dazzling light. I don't know what mysteries there are in the second and third through heaven diagrams. Qin Yu began to look forward to it. When his body was constantly improving, Qin Yu also enjoyed this wonderful feeling very much. Naturally, he looked forward to the other two through heaven diagrams. I remember. Qin Yu suddenly remembered the courtyard where Lien Yen had been killed. When he had been next to Lien Yan's corpse and used his holy sense to scan the place, he had discovered the aura of the other through heaven diagram. However, at that time, Qin Yu had been immersed in grief and had not paid attention to this matter. Father must have put the second through heaven diagram in the secret treasury. Qin Yu immediately smiled. Qin Yu was qualified to enter the secret treasury. Even if he wanted to take out some treasures, he only needed to inform Qin De. Qin Yu took out the first through heaven diagram from his bosom and said with a smile, "This first through heaven diagram is no longer of much use to me. Just put it in the secret treasury quietly." Qin Yu did not want his father to know that he was the killer Lu Xing. Of course, his father would not necessarily know that the first through heaven diagram was obtained by the killer Lu Xing. However, just in case, Qin Yu would only hide it in an inconspicuous place in the secret treasury. During the whole month of practicing, Qin Yu did not eat or drink at all. Now that he thinks about it, Qin Yu is very astonished. As far as he knows, to reach the stage of not eating or drinking, one must at least absorb the holy aura of the universe at an astonishing speed. Qin Yu had already absorbed the holy aura of the universe at an extremely fast speed because of the tear of Lu Xing. Now that he has also practiced the mysterious technique of the first through heaven diagram, the holy aura he absorbs has even turned into silvery light spots. It's a good thing to practice so fast. No matter what the reason is, the principles of the mysterious tear of Lu Xing and the mysterious through heaven diagram are not things that I can guess. Qin Yu says with a smile. Afterwards, Qin Yu directly leaves the courtyard house and goes straight to Qin De's residence. At least it will not be too late to go into the secret treasury after greeting Qin De first. Third Prince. Outside Qin De's residence, two guards kneel down on one knee and say, "Pass on the message that I want to see Father." Qin Yu says directly. One of the guards says, "Third Prince, His Royal Highness went into closed-door training half a month ago and still hasn't come out. His Royal Highness has ordered that no matter who it is, no one is to disturb His Royal Highness during his closed-door training." Hearing this, Qin Yu cannot help but be startled. Unexpectedly, his father has also gone into closed-door training. Very well, you can continue to guard. Qin Yu smiles and turns around to leave. Going to the secret treasury is not a big deal even if he does not say anything. The number of guards in the corridor outside the secret treasury has obviously increased. When they see Qin Yu, they do not stop him at all. Qin Yu directly enters the innermost attic. Stepping into a side room of the attic, Qin Yu turns on the mechanism. Following a ka-ka sound, a stone door appeared on the wall of the side room. It was the stone door leading to the secret treasury. Qin Yu directly entered the secret treasury. After that, the stone door rotated and closed again. Chapter 57. The treasure warehouse was a small secret room. On both sides of the secret room, there were two counters made of agarwood. Treasures were placed on the counters one after another. In the center of the secret room, there was a bamboo chair and a natural tea table. In front of the secret room, against the wall, there was an ancient incense burning. Faint smoke spread out from the incense, making the whole secret room have a Zen atmosphere. The first trans-heaven diagram should be hidden in the crack between the counter and the wall on the left. Qin Yu goes to a corner of the wall, then takes out this precious first trans-heaven diagram from his bosom. He looks at it carefully, then stuffs it directly into a crack in the wall. End of B1C3. Qin Yu stood up and nodded with satisfaction. Well, when Father finds this trans-heaven diagram, I don't know how many years it will be. He won't suspect me. Qin Yu didn't want to tell his father that he was the assassin Lu Xing, because in Qin Yu's opinion, it wasn't something to be proud of. After putting the first trans-heaven diagram, Qin Yu glanced at the treasures on the counter, and suddenly found a jade box on the counter. I have a feeling that this is what I'm looking for. Qin Yu smiled and opened the lid of the jade case. A square-shaped jade block appeared on the surface of Qin Yu's body. That soft multicolored light covered the entire square-shaped jade block. Merely by looking at it from the outside, there seemed to be no difference between it and the first block. Qin Yu took this trans-heaven diagram in his hand. On the front of this trans-heaven diagram, there were a few words, Trans-heaven diagram 2. It's the second one. Qin Yu was overjoyed. According to his understanding, the 3 trans-heaven diagrams must be related to each other. Since he practiced the first one, it was best to get the second one. If it was the third one, he might not be able to practice it. Qin Yu looked at the second trans-heaven diagram, and his eyes suddenly lit up. All his attention was completely focused on this trans-heaven diagram. 36 images. Sure enough, it's just as I expected. There are still 36 images, but this image is completely different from the one on that piece. Qin Yu's soul had become much stronger after the last transformation. He even had a spiritual sense. With a sweep of his holy sense, Qin Yu easily remembers everything he sees in his mind. What Qin Yu wanted the most was these 36 images. As for the others, Qin Yu didn't think too much about it. Even if he thought about it, he might not be able to get it. Until now, Qin Yu still believed that the mysterious cultivation method mentioned by the mysterious super-expert in the legendary War of the Immortals was absolutely not the image on the surface of the trans-heaven diagram. Anyone with a bit of intelligence would think so. If it was so simple, it would have been comprehended long ago. The most important thing was, could he reach the level of the mysterious man in the legend just by exercising his body? After carefully examining the second trans-heaven diagram with his soul sense, Qin Yu still couldn't find any other mysteries. He could only put it back with a smile. Qin Yu, you are too stupid. In the past, these 3 trans-heaven diagrams were obtained by countless self-cultivators, and they didn't find any mysteries. How can you find it with your soul sense? Qin Yu was very satisfied with the 36 images of the second trans-heaven diagram. I haven't looked carefully at the treasures in the secret treasury. Qin Yu smiled, and then spread out his soul sense, covering the whole secret treasury. Qin Yu's soul sense could reach hundreds of meters, so it was naturally easy for him to find a small secret room. Such a big peephole is really attractive. That horsetail whisk doesn't seem to be anything special. Qin Yu commented with a smile. Suddenly, the smile on Qin Yu's face froze. No, it can't be. Qin Yu's soul sense clearly discovered a secret, and Qin Yu couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Qin Yu foolishly stretched out his hand and took out the second trans-heaven diagram from the jade box. Then, Qin Yu slightly pressed a small mechanism on the side of the jade box. With a click, Qin Yu actually easily opened another layer of the jade box. This jade box actually had 2 layers. Qin Yu originally thought that this jade box was only thicker at the bottom, but it turned out that there were 2 layers. And the second layer was surprisingly another square jade block. The soft colorful light and the clear handwriting told Qin Yu the identity of this square jade block, the third trans-heaven diagram. God, my luck can't be so good, right? Qin Yu was completely excited at this moment. He had actually obtained the legendary 3 trans-heaven diagrams. Of course, Qin Yu couldn't understand the mystery of them. He was only interested in the 36 mysterious pictures. Qin Yu heaved a long sigh and secretly sighed. Fortunately, if I hadn't used my soul sense to check, I wouldn't have known that there was a trans-heaven diagram under this jade box. This third trans-heaven diagram was similar to the first 2, and it also had 36 different pictures. Qin Yu immediately began to carefully memorize the pictures. Qin Yu didn't know that when Qin Shi Huang obtained the 3 trans-heaven diagrams at the same time, although he couldn't understand the mystery of them. He had also learned the movements of the pictures like Qin Yu, but Qin Shi Huang found that these movements were completely useless, so he naturally gave up. After the fall of the Qin dynasty, the first and second of the 3 trans-heaven diagrams were lost in the chaos of war. Only the third trans-heaven diagram had been hidden by the Qin family for thousands of years. When Qin De obtained the second trans-heaven diagram, he naturally placed it together with the third. At noon 3 days later, Qin Yu was in his courtyard, carefully experiencing the movements of the 36 pictures of the second trans-heaven diagram. Qin Yu's movements were sometimes fast and sometimes slow. When he was fast, he was much faster than when he practiced the first picture. When he was slow, He was even slower than when he practiced the first picture. But even if his movements were slow, several phantoms appeared on Qin Yu's whole body, which was very strange. Outsiders didn't know, but Qin Yu himself knew the reason. Qin Yu was practicing this mysterious body refining technique, which he temporarily named the Trans-Heaven Mysterious Technique. When practicing this technique, Qin Yu's surroundings were affected by him. The air on the surface of Qin Yu's body was distorted, which caused the phantoms to appear. The surface of Qin Yu's body is still surrounded by 36 energy streams, only these energy streams have changed from silvery to alternating silvery and golden colors. Qin Yu has a premonition that when he succeeds in mastering the 36 diagrams of the second Trans-Heaven diagram, the 36 silvery energy streams will perhaps turn into golden energy streams. Third Prince, His Highness has come out of seclusion. He has summoned you to Mingshan Pavilion. A servant's voice came from outside the courtyard. Hearing this, Qin Yu stopped practicing. Father has come out of seclusion. Qin Yu wiped himself a little with a towel and stretched himself a little. His whole body crackled. His powerful muscles transmitted through his body like mercury. Practicing this technique, Qin Yu's body improved by leaps and bounds. His strength and speed both reached a whole new level. Now, even if Qin Yu wanted to deal with Zhen Su, he could probably kill him easily. Qin Yu moved his facial muscles and smiled. He then left the courtyard directly and hurried to Mingshan Pavilion. Qin De, Su Yuan, Qin Feng, Qin Zheng, Qin Yu, the chief steward of the prince's mansion Gumin, the blue-clad old man, the gray-clad old man, and the Zionist Fenjiuzi. There were 9 people in total. Qin De was the 9 people at the top of the group. Fenjiuzi had set up a mysterious restriction formation around Mingshan Pavilion so that no sound could be heard outside. Qin De and Fenjiuzi's expressions were very serious. Seeing such an atmosphere, Qin Yu felt that this matter seemed to be very important. Chapter 58. Qin De glances at everybody then says, "There's a very important matter for me to call everybody here so urgently. But whether it's good or bad, even I can't say for sure." There is a forced smile on Qin De's face. So does Fenjiuzi on one side. "Father, what's the matter that's making you like this?" Qin Zheng asks at once. Qin Yu, Qin Feng and the others all look at Qin De. Qin De shakes his head and says helplessly, "It's only been a little more than a year since I reached the peak of the Xiantian realm. But when I was doing closed-door training recently, I suddenly had a premonition that, in half a year, my 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation will come." 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation. The first heavenly tribulation to become a Zionist, commonly known as minor heavenly tribulation, is the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation. Everybody is dumbfounded. Of the super experts who have reached the peak of the Xiantian realm, some are afraid of the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation, but some also want to overcome it to become a Zionist. However, it is not so easy to encounter the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation. Some people who have reached the peak of the Xiantian realm for dozens of years or even hundreds of years have not been able to wait for the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation. Some people who have just reached the peak of the Xiantian realm have already sensed when their 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation will come. This is determined by a person's understanding of the way of heaven. Who would have thought that Qin De, who has been practicing for dozens of years, is even more formidable than Lien Yan in martial arts and has unexpectedly sensed the arrival of the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation? But is this a good thing? To overcome the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation, especially with the Qianlong continent's practice method, without the help of a Zionist school, it is almost impossible to succeed. Now the army is about to be mobilized. If Qin De fails to overcome the tribulation and dies on the spot, things will be terrible. But if he succeeds in overcoming the tribulation, the Qin clan will have one more Zionist and its power will increase greatly. It's a pity that the probability of success is too low. How is this possible? Even Senior didn't encounter the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation for so many years. Your Highness Su Yuan's heart was in a mess. He had followed Qin De for so many years. The two of them were master and subordinate, but they also had brotherly feelings. The 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation. The probability of success is too low. The 3 in 9 heavenly tribulation of Ziationists is extremely abnormal. Father. Qin Yu, Qin Feng and Qin Zheng all look at Qin De, their eyes filled with anxiety. 49 heavenly tribulations. This meant that their father would probably die in half a year. Although they loved their father, they had to admit that the heavenly tribulations were too difficult. Yu, Feng, Zheng, you two are older brothers. You're all adults, yet you're still acting like this. I'm a real man. Since I can't escape from the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation, I'll go through it. If I succeed, it'll be a happy event. If I fail, it's nothing. Qin De's resolute face was very carefree and happy. But father, the 49 heavenly tribulations. Qin Yu's heart ached. Grandpa Lien had just passed away. If his father died in the heavenly tribulation, then, just thinking about it made Qin Yu's heart tremble. I know that the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation is very dangerous. Your grandfather also died during the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation. However, the heavenly tribulation was unavoidable. Men must be brave enough to face it. Even if they die, they must try their best. Qin De's voice became firm. Looking at his father's eyes, Qin Yu had no choice but to nod his head. Today, I've called everybody here to make some arrangements for the future. From now on, Zheng will be in charge of all the affairs of the Qin family. That is to say, from now on, I'll only be responsible for guiding the family from behind. Zheng will make his own decisions. Qin De gave a direct order. Yes, father. Qin Zheng's voice was not excited at all. In the past few years, Qin Zheng had been in charge of most affairs. Now Qin De's words meant that he was giving Qin Zheng all the power. Qin De had 3 sons. The eldest son, Qin Yu, was good at leading troops in battle. The second son, Qin Yu, was good at government affairs. The third son, Qin De, was very free. At least Qin De did not restrict Qin Yu. Qin Yu could do whatever he wanted. Feng, you must work hard. Your position in the Qin family's army is completely determined by your military exploits. Qin De stared at Qin Feng and said. Qin Feng nodded in agreement. Qin Feng himself was a Xiantian expert. In addition, he was very good at leading troops in battle. He even had 100,000 troops under his command. Even though his status as a princely heir played a role, his own strength was still very important. Qin De looked at Qin Yu. In fact, Qin De felt that he owed his third son the most. However, at this moment, he did not want to say too many sentimental words. After staring at Qin Yu for a long time, Qin De slowly said, You can do whatever you want. I won't restrict you. But I just want to give you a word of advice. Remember, do whatever you think is right. The men of the Qin family shouldn't be overcautious and afraid of death. Hearing this, Qin Yu's blood boiled in his heart. Yes, father. Qin Yu said resolutely. Qin De smiled. On one side, Fenjiuzi said, I've already discussed it with His Highness. Half a year later, when everything in the Qin family goes on as usual, His Highness and I will take some Xiantian experts to a secret place to receive the heavenly tribulation. As for the 3 princesses, they can't go with us. That's right. I've already decided who will go with us. At that time, Manager Gu, some other Xiantian experts and some other experts will go with me. Zheng, you 3 can't go with us. Qin De spoke resolutely and decisively. He absolutely did not allow anyone to oppose him. Nobody knew whether Xiang Guang had received the news that Qin De was going to undergo the heavenly tribulation. Once he did, he would definitely send experts to sabotage the plan. The Xiantian experts who went with Qin De would all be in danger. Qin De could not risk his son's life. Qin Zheng was the future East vanquishing prince. He had great power, so naturally he could not have any accidents. Qin Feng was the army's commander-in-chief, so he could not be used as an ordinary expert bodyguard. Once an accident happened, it would be terrible. As for Qin Yu, "Father, I'll go with you," Qin Yu says in a loud and clear voice. "I know it'll be dangerous to go with you. Big brother and second brother are both shouldering heavy responsibilities and they can't have any accidents. But I'm not very useful in the matter of raising the army. I can't manage political affairs or military affairs." "No," Qin suddenly says, cutting off Qin Yu's words. "Why?" Qin Yu immediately stands up and says, "Why not? Father, do you still remember what you said just now? Do what you think is right. Men of the Qin clan shouldn't be overcautious and afraid of death. Now I want you to go with me. I think it's right. I'm not afraid of death. I only want to go with you." Qin Yu stares at Qin De. He simply does not back down in the slightest. Do you know how dangerous this is? I don't know how many Xiantian experts that Xiang Guang has, and I'm not worried either. But they have 2 Shangxian, 2 of them. Your Uncle Feng can only block one of them. If the 2 Shangxian come together, it'll be extremely dangerous. Do you know that? Qin De says hurriedly. Dangerous? Could it be that I'm afraid of danger? Qin Yu gives an indifferent smile. He simply does not allow Qin De to refuse. Qin De says with a shake of his head, This time all the people going will be experts, Xiantian experts. You're just an external martial artist. What's the use of going there? You won't be of any use at all. On the contrary, when it's dangerous, you'll probably get us into trouble. Therefore, you'd better give up that idea." "Xiantian?" Qin Yu bursts out laughing. After becoming a Xiantian expert, Qin Yu wanted to tell this news to his father. However, because of Lian Yan's death, Qin Yu was so grieved that he forgot to tell his father. Afterwards, Qin Yu began to practice the techniques in the trans-heaven diagrams. Qin De then undertook closed-door training, so naturally he never had time to tell his father. "Take this." Qin Yu suddenly shouts loudly. His body darts directly at the blue-clad old man like a flash of lightning. The blue-clad old man and the gray-clad old man are both super experts under Qin Yu's command. They are at the same level as Lian Yan and are usually in charge of the Heavenly Net's affairs. As a peak Xiantian expert, the blue-clad old man is terrifyingly powerful. "Third Prince." The blue-clad old man reaches out his hand smilingly. "Humph." Qin Yu utters a cold humph. The whole air starts to vibrate. His right fist turns into a thunderclap. Qin Yu, who has mastered the first trans-heaven diagram and reached the second trans-heaven diagram, shows his real power for the first time. After going through such a long period of transformation, what level has his power actually reached? The faces of everybody present all change color. The blue-clad old man knows the situation is bad. He immediately stirs up the Xiantian internal energy in his body and his right palm turns golden. Fist against palm. Pang! A violent vibration is heard. The blue-clad old man only feels a terrifyingly powerful force. It's pure physical strength without the slightest bit of internal energy. That terrifying force is transmitted into his body through his palm. The physical strength is pure and fierce. The blue-clad old man cannot help backing away. Afterwards, with a cracking sound, the railing is broken. He finally crashes into the inhibition formation set up by Fenjiuzi and stops. Everybody looks at Qin Yu, their eyes filled with shock. Qin Yu stares at his father expressionlessly. "Father, do you think I'm qualified to follow you? I'm a Xiantian master, the first Xiantian external expert in the history of the Qianlong continent. I can also be considered a Xiantian master." Qin Yu's voice shocks everybody present. A Xiantian external expert. From ancient times until now, when it came to external martial arts, people would only think of it as difficult, painful, thankless, with no future, at most reaching the limit of the Ho-Tian realm. However, from today onwards, everyone present knew that external martial arts could also reach the Xiantian realm. So powerful. If the third prince uses a middle-grade spirit weapon, it's hard to say whether I can defeat him. At this moment, the blue-clad old man still feels the pain in his right arm. Qin Yu's power has far surpassed the realm when he fought with Zhan Su. After practicing the Tong Tian mysterious skill and being transformed by the mysterious silver light and the golden light, Qin Yu has undergone earth-shaking changes compared to the time when he fought with Zhan Su. Qin De looks at Qin Yu. No one knows how great the shock in his heart is at the moment. This third son before him, whom he has never placed much hope in and who practices the most arduous and most unpromising external technique, has unexpectedly reached such a terrifying level at the age of 18 without him, his father, noticing. Moreover, he has become an unprecedented Xiantian external expert. End of B3C13. Father. Qin Yu speaks again. He is waiting for his father's answer. Qin De is silent for a long time. Then he slowly shakes his head. No. Chapter 59. After telling his father that he has become a Xiantian expert, Qin Yu's heart is filled with excitement. He wants to obtain his father's affirmation and praise. Now he can finally let his father know that he is not a useless person. No. Hearing his father's words, Qin Yu's body shakes. His face immediately turns deathly pale. He stares at Qin De with eyes full of disbelief and anger. Why? Why not? Qin Yu keeps saying. It seems he simply cannot accept Qin De's answer. Qin Yu's eyes become misty. Since he was 8 years old, he has been working hard day and night. Every day, he has been doing extreme training non-stop. He has neither the happiness of his peers nor the care of his parents. He has not even had a peer of his own age. 10 years have been like a day. Thanks to his hard work and a bit of luck, he has finally reached his current level of power. Qin Yu has been training so hard for 10 years, but he has not complained at all. Why is that? It is because he wants to reach the Xiantian level so that he can help his father, make him happy and make him proud of him. Father, didn't you just say that reaching the Xiantian level is enough? Now my power is far greater than that of ordinary Xiantian experts. I can even fight against peak Xiantian experts. Why don't you allow me to go with you? Qin Yu stares at his father. His eyes are full of anger and unwillingness. Qin Yu's angry and unreconciled look causes Qin Yu's heart to slightly tremble. Calm down. Qin De shouts coldly. Qin Yu takes a deep breath and says, All right, I'll calm down. Father, tell me, what's the reason? If you can't convince me, I won't give up no matter what. All right. Qin De immediately says, Once I'm going to undergo the tribulation, I'll definitely choose a hidden place. Your Uncle Feng will also go with me. Of course, the news that I'm going to undergo the tribulation will be kept very secret. There are only 2 possibilities. First, if Xiang Guang and the others can't find out that I'm going to undergo the tribulation and nobody comes to disturb me, that's naturally a good thing. It doesn't matter if you go or not. Secondly, if Xiang Guang learns that I'm going through the tribulation, 2 Shangxian will come together. Even though you're pretty powerful, the power of Shangxian who have undergone the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation and become Zayashinists is simply beyond your imagination. Qin De says with a sigh, although it's only a 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation, the difference between an ordinary peak Xiantian expert and a Zayashinist is like heaven and earth. A simple flying sword attack from a cultivator can easily cut off your head. If you go, you will be of no use at all. You will only die innocently. So, in both cases, you won't be of any help. Instead, you might die. Qin Yu stared at Qin De. This is why I didn't let you go. When Qin Yu heard that, he fell silent. However, the silent Qin Yu was exuding a chaotic aura. The stronger the soul, the stronger the aura. Although Qin Yu didn't mean it, everyone could feel the aura he was emitting. No one knew what Qin Yu was thinking. Xiao Yu. Qin Zhang and Qin Feng both looked at their younger brother. Father, do you still remember? Qin Yu simply did not pay attention to his second-year big brother. Instead, He continued to talk to himself. Before I was 6 years old, you were so concerned about me and often accompanied me. At that time, I was so happy and carefree. In my heart, Father was the wisest and most powerful person. However, when I was 6 years old, I was sent to Misty Villa. Chinyu lowered his head and said in a low voice. He seemed to be talking to himself but also seemed to be talking to Qin De. Everybody quieted down. In Misty Mountain Villa, I was the only 6-year-old child. The others were either servants or guards. There was no one to play with me. I was all alone. At that time, I watched the sun rise and then watched the sun set, hoping that Imperial Father would come and see me. I didn't know how many times I was disappointed. Finally, Father came. But he left very quickly. Then I continued to look forward to him. But he didn't come. For 2 whole years, Father only came to Misty Villa once. Qin Yu was still saying slowly. Everybody present thought of a 6 or 7-year-old child, watching the sunrise and sunset, looking forward to his father's arrival but being disappointed again and again. Qin De's lips slightly moved but he didn't say anything. He had nothing to say. Of his 3 sons, the one he felt the most guilty about was his 3rd son. He spent the least time with Qin Yu, cared for him the least, and spent the least amount of time with him. I was thinking, why didn't Father come to see me? Could it be that I was disobedient and made Father angry? Or was it because I was too annoying? If I didn't do well enough, Father could tell me. I could change. But I wasn't stupid. Big brother practiced martial arts and second brother studied politics. Father often guided big brother and second brother and often went to see them. I finally understood. Father didn't think I could become a talent, so he didn't care about me. Qin Yu bit his lips and his eyes flashed. After thinking about it, I decided to practice and become an expert. But my dantian couldn't store internal strength and I could only practice external strength. In the first year, it was Master Zhao Yunqing who taught me. Every day, I started to practice at the first glimmer of dawn. Limit training is indeed a training that surpasses physical limits. Every time, I felt extremely painful and exhausted. I was so tired that I really couldn't go on. But as soon as I thought that I could make Father happy in the future, I clenched my teeth and went on. Qin Yu slowly says. Qin De's eyes were moist. When I was 16, Father told me some secrets. I finally understood that it wasn't that Father didn't love me, but he had his own things to do and he didn't have time to take care of me. Looking at Father, big brother and second brother working hard for the future, I, a descendant of the Qin family, couldn't help at all. I could only watch from the side. That night, Father said that only when I reached the Xiantian realm would he allow me to lead troops to kill the enemy. At that time, I decided that no matter what, I would become a Xiantian master. Qin Yu's face suddenly had a trace of a smile. 10 years, 10 whole years, I finally succeeded. I was lucky, but at the same time, I also worked hard. But no matter what, I finally reached today's realm. Qin Yu suddenly raises his head. A fierce aura emanates from his body. Since ancient times, people have always said that external techniques have no future and basically can't reach the Xiantian level. But I didn't believe that. I've been trying all along. Sure enough, I've finally done it. Qin Yu's face had a trace of arrogance. How could an 18-year-old who could practice to the level of a Xiantian complete internal expert not have arrogance? Moreover, Qin Yu practiced external strength which was known to be much more difficult than internal strength. Xiantian external expert, and now I've made a lot of progress compared to when I first stepped into the Xiantian realm. My strength has also increased a lot. I want to tell this news to Father because I think that once Father knows that I'm a Xiantian master, he will treat me like big brother and second brother and put me in an important position. I can also help Father. Qin Yu stared at his father and suddenly his face turned pale. Ha ha. I was wrong, very wrong. Qin Yu suddenly became emotional and said to his father in a loud voice, Father, when I was weak, you didn't use me and didn't let me help you. I didn't blame you. I clenched my teeth and worked hard. But now, I'm far more powerful than an ordinary Xiantian master. You still don't let me help you. You still let me hide on the side and watch you go through dangers while I can sit back and relax. Father, do you think this is because you care about me? No, it's not at all, I feel sad. Haha, I practiced hard every day and every night. I gave up the fun of my peers, I gave up everything and devoted myself to practice. 10 years, haha, 10 years, what was the point of my practice in the past 10 years? What's the point of practicing to this realm? Qin Yu's tears flowed down uncontrollably from his face. His goal for the past 10 years. Now Qin Yu found that his most determined persistence for the past 10 years was in vain. How sad he was. Father, I know how terrible the 4 in 9 heavenly tribulation is. If you fail to cross it. Qin Yu's body trembled. He couldn't imagine what a huge blow it would be to him if his father died. If you are gone, what's the point of my persistence for the past 10 years? I can't help you at all with my practice. In any case, Father, at least you can let me play a little bit of role. In this way, I can die without regret. But, you didn't give me a chance, you didn't even give me a chance. You only said that I can't help you at all. Father, you didn't even give me a chance. Why are you so sure that I can't help you? Why? Qin Yu roars at Qin De at the top of his lungs with bloodshot eyes. Suddenly Qin Yu laughed bitterly. I know, Father, I, your third son, have always been useless in your heart, right? No matter what I do, I'm useless. Even if I reach the Xiantian realm, I'm still useless. I was useless in the past, and I'm also useless now. Father, I think that even if you raise the army in the future, I'm just a Xiantian master. I don't think you'll pay much attention to me. Qin De was speechless. Indeed, even if there was a war in the future, it would be a war between armies of 100,000 soldiers. A Xiantian master wouldn't play a big role in such a war. Qin De didn't care about Qin Yu's role in the future war. Seeing Qin De's expression, Qin Yu laughed. Haha. I'm useless, the most useless one. No matter how hard I try, no matter how much I practice, I'll always be the most useless one. It's funny, for so many years, what have I been practicing? What's the use of practicing? Qin Yu laughed out loud. However, he then started to cry silently. His tears slowly flowed down. Qin De looks at Qin Yu in front of him, his third son, whom he has never cared about, and suddenly feels extremely guilty and heartbroken. However, he opens his mouth but cannot say a single word. He simply does not know what to say. End of B1C9. Indeed, in Qin De's mind, Qin Yu is basically useless in his plan. What Qin Yu said is not wrong at all. I'm stupid, really stupid. Qin Yu shook his head and smiled bitterly. Xiao Yu. When Qin Zhang and Qin Feng were just about to say something, Qin Yu reached out his hand to stop them. Qin Yu took a deep breath, looked at Qin De and said calmly, Father, I'm sorry, I forgot myself. For the first time, the feelings that had been suppressed in his heart for so many years burst out completely. Father. Seeing that Qin De wanted to say something, Qin Yu said with a forced smile, Father, my mind is in a mess right now. I need to calm down. Don't worry, Father, I won't bother you anymore. At least I won't come back to bother you for half a year before the tribulation. Qin Yu looked at Fenjiuzi and said, Uncle Feng, could you help me undo the restrictive spells around here? Fenjiuzi immediately sent out streams of energy to undo the restrictive spells. Qin Yu raised his head and let out a whistle. Then a black flash of lightning swooped down from the sky. Qin Yu's body moved as fast as lightning, leaving behind several afterimages. He had already climbed onto the back of the Black Eagle 10M in the air. Qin Yu sat on the back of the Black Eagle. Suddenly, he slightly leaned forward and hugged the eagle's neck. For so many years, Xiao Hei had always been with Qin Yu. Sticking close to Xiao Hei's warm feathers, Qin Yu's heart calmed down. He gently patted Xiao Hei and said, Xiao Hei, let's go back to Misty Villa. Xiao Hei also felt Qin Yu's grief at this moment. With a flap of its wings, a strong wind suddenly rose. The Black Eagle had already flown high into the sky. In just a moment, it disappeared into the horizon. Chinda's complexion was extremely pale. He looked like a sick person. Chinda looked up at the sky. He knew that Qin Yu had left. He wouldn't leave for at least half a year. This half a year might be his last half a year in this world. Qin Yu's words were like knives that cut into his heart. However, Chinda knew that his son was suffering more than him. Although Chinda was grieving, he felt even more guilty, incomparably guilty. But in this life, would he, Chinda, still have time to make up for it? Chapter 60. On the top of Mount Donglan, a golden silhouette is moving extremely fast. It is as ethereal and unreal as mist. Beside it, a huge black eagle is flapping its wings. Its sharp eyes are fixed on that golden silhouette all the time. This golden silhouette and that eagle are none other than Qin Yu and Xiao He. Qin Yu had been cultivating like this for more than 20 days. During these 20 days, Qin Yu didn't rest, eat or drink. However, Qin Yu's spirit was getting better and better. Compared to when he had just left the mansion, Qin Yu was much sharper. Suddenly, the golden figure stopped. The 36 golden pillars of energy completely dissipated. Qin Yu's lonely figure appeared. The 36 diagrams of the second sky traversing diagram have all been completed. Qin Yu looks at the skin all over his body. When he slightly exerts his power, there is a faint golden light flowing at the bottom of his skin. It is very miraculous. Moreover, Qin Yu discovers that his body has reached a new level. Strength. Qin Yu could no longer accurately measure his current body with strength. Xiao He, let's go. Qin Yu called out to Xiao He. Xiao He immediately cried out excitedly. Then, Qin Yu sat on Xiao He's back. Xiao He flapped its wings and directly left Donglan Mountain, starting another journey. At the first branch of Skynet, it was already late winter. The sky was filled with white snow. The courtyard of the branch was covered with a thick layer of snow. Qin Yu directly stepped on the snow, leaving behind a layer of faint footprints. As the snowflakes fell, the footprints also disappeared in a moment. Mr. Lu Xing, please sit. A charming woman placed a mission list in front of Qin Yu. Qin Yu directly opened the gold medal mission and looked at the resumes of these mission targets. Qin Yu didn't care about the strength of the other party when accepting a mission. He only looked at the other party's character. If the other party was evil, Qin Yu would accept it. If the other party was kind, Qin Yu wouldn't accept it. Of course, Qin Yu wouldn't be so bored as to protect that kind person. The 6th item of the gold medal mission, Qin Yu said coldly. That coquettish woman immediately assigns him a task, then slightly winks at Qin Yu and says teasingly, Mr. Lu Xing, it's snowing heavily right now. Why don't you stay here for a night? It won't be too late to leave after the snow stops tomorrow. As she spoke, the charming woman stretched out her slender right hand and held Qin Yu's hand. Let go, Qin Yu said calmly. That charming woman covers her mouth and says with a smile, Mr. Lu Xing is really... When she is about to say something, she feels a shock coming from Qin Yu's hand. Her hand cannot help going numb and she has no choice but to let go. Qin Yu immediately turned and stepped into the heavy snow. The charming woman looked at that figure in the heavy snow. Suddenly, that figure transformed into multiple afterimages and then disappeared from her field of vision. You dare to kill me? You're courting death. Ghostly flame hand, kill him for me, a fat man said arrogantly. The golden-masked Qin Yu had a hint of a cold smile at the corner of his mouth. Yes. A bald, one-armed man looked at Qin Yu and sneered, Gold medal assassin, as an assassin, you actually didn't assassinate us in secret. Instead, you openly blocked our path. How stupid of you. You should be proud that you're going to die at the hands of my ghostly flame hand. Qin Yu shook his head slightly and said to himself, Middle stage Sinin. Too weak. Swish. Qin Yu transformed into a streak of light and flashed past the bald, one-armed man. The bald, one-armed man was completely stupefied. And then, two miserable screams sounded out as Qin Yu's figure disappeared as well. Having completed his mission, Qin Yu naturally left. My right hand. My right hand is finished. Ghostly Flame Hand looked at his only remaining hand, stunned. Just then, Qin Yu's speed was simply too fast. He didn't give him any chance to resist at all before chopping off his only remaining hand. And then, using an astonishing speed, he chopped off the fat man's head with a single chop, and then left with the fat man's head. From beginning to end, only an instant had passed. As expected, after successfully training in the second Trans-Heaven diagram, my power has increased to a whole new level. Plus, after taking off the dark steel arm guards, dark steel leg guards, and this black gold undershirt, my speed is so fast that even a peak Xiantian expert would at most be on the same level as me. Qin Yu had a confident smile on his face. After training in the second Trans-Heaven diagram, Qin Yu's strength had increased greatly. His body had also undergone a transformation. In terms of toughness alone, ordinary dark steel weapons couldn't even injure him. Qin Yu's physical defense had already caught up to the black gold undershirt. Therefore, Qin Yu took off the black gold undershirt and the dark steel arm guards and leg guards. After all, to someone like Qin Yu who had reached such a realm, carrying weights while training wasn't of much use. Oh, Mr. Lu Xing is really fast. The mission was completed in a short while. The woman who received Qin Yu said with a charming smile. Qin Yu received the reward and flipped through the mission list. He said directly, Gold Mission Number 3. In 3 whole months, Qin Yu actually received 9 gold missions. On average, he received 3 gold missions per month. Qin Yu easily completed all 9 gold missions. All the opponents he met were directly killed by Qin Yu, no matter what level they were at. There were even 2 late Xiantian experts among them. Even when facing a late Xiantian expert, Qin Yu didn't use the flaming sword or the flaming gloves. He killed the opponent with just his hands. The opponent didn't even have the slightest ability to resist. With Qin Yu's current strength, even if he didn't use his hands, he was already able to fight a peak Xiantian expert. The silver and gold light of the 2 Trans-Heaven diagrams had really changed the body too much. This was also the reason why Qin Yu had made such progress. Mr. Lu Xing actually didn't accept any missions? The woman who received Qin Yu was puzzled. Looking at the records, it was obvious that Qin Yu had accepted 9 missions in a row. She originally thought that he would continue to accept missions. Could it be that I've been wasting my time on missions? Humph. The targets of these missions are not challenging at all. Qin Yu took the reward and said indifferently before leaving. Obviously, Qin Yu's mentality had changed. He was not as indifferent as he was 3 months ago. A person came from the back of the mission reception hall. Looking at Qin Yu's back, he slightly frowned and said, Not challenging at all? Even late Xiantian experts are not challenging? In a nameless mountain forest. It has been more than 2 months. Qin Yu has stayed in this nameless mountain forest for more than 2 months. He has been practicing the 3rd Trans-Heaven diagram here all the time. With the experience of practicing the previous 2 diagrams, it is naturally very easy for Qin Yu to practice this Trans-Heaven diagram. But what surprised Qin Yu was that the 3rd Trans-Heaven diagram was completely different from the first 2 diagrams. Because the 3rd Trans-Heaven diagram actually produced purple Xiantian Zhen Qi. This Xiantian Zhen Qi seeped into every part of Qin Yu's body. No matter if it was his dantian, muscles, bones, meridians. As long as it was Qin Yu's body, there would be Xiantian Zhen Qi. Qin Yu, whose whole body was surrounded by 36 purple Qi pillars, rushed down from the sky like lightning. Then, he fiercely smashed his right leg on the ground. Strangely, the ground was not damaged at all. But the whole ground started to vibrate. After a while, boom! The ground within a radius of 10 meters exploded, creating a cloud of dust. When the dust settled, a huge hole with a radius of 10 meters and a depth of 10 meters appeared. The first and second Trans-Heaven diagrams only took 1 month to reach the Deshang level, but this 3rd Trans-Heaven diagram actually took more than 2 months. Qin Yu stopped, and the 36 purple chi pillars disappeared. The purple halo on the surface of his body also gradually disappeared. From the outside to the inside. Compared to the first two trans-heaven diagrams, the third trans-heaven diagram was the most powerful. Not only did it strengthen the body, it also produced the unique purple Xiantian Zhen Qi of the trans-heaven mysterious skill. It's already been half a year. It's almost time for father to pass his tribulation. Qin Yu sighed in his heart. Suddenly, he lost the joy of increasing his strength. Chapter 61. For the past 6 months, Qin Yu had been thinking about what he should do in this world. Should he just follow the crowd, get married, have children, and then grow old like an ordinary person? No, Qin Yu simply could not accept this path in his heart. Since he was young, Qin Yu had set his goal to become an expert so that he could help his father. But now, maybe I was wrong from the beginning. People can't always live for others. In this way, not only will I be tired, but it will also bring a lot of pressure to my father. Qin Yu slowly walked to the edge of a small lake in the mountain forest. Looking at the curved blue waves in front of him, Qin Yu's heart was constantly thinking. For the past 6 months, although Qin Yu had been cultivating and taking on missions, his heart was always thinking, "What should I do in this world?" This was what Qin Yu was thinking. In Qin Yu's heart, there was a desire, a faint desire, but Qin Yu had never dared to completely burst out his desire. In his heart, Qin Yu enjoyed the pleasure of life and death battles the most. He enjoyed the feeling of breaking through the limits. Cultivators, the overseas immortal islands, the cultivation world. This was the desire hidden in Qin Yu's heart. When he heard Fenjiuzi's description of the cultivation world, Qin Yu was filled with a desire for this cultivation world. In the past, his strength was not enough, but the opportunity brought by the trans-heaven diagram. Qin Yu took a deep breath. He yearned for the life of a cultivator. Up to the highest heavens, down to the depths of the ocean, fighting with demon beasts, fighting with cultivators for treasures, fighting with heaven and earth, and pursuing the limits of life. Qin Yu yearned for that kind of hot-blooded, passionate life, but to choose that kind of life, one needs strength, and two needs determination. One needs the strength of a cultivator, and one needs the determination to be alone. His father and brothers could not accompany him to take risks and wander with him. Could Qin Yu bear to leave his father and brothers? Remember, do what you think is right. My Qin family's men should not be afraid of the slightest thing and fear death. Qin Yu's father's words rang in his ears again. Qin Yu suddenly smiled. That's right, in this world, why should we be afraid of the slightest thing? Moreover, my life in the past was also wrong. I shouldn't have lived for others. That way, I would have tired Imperial Father. I wanted to live for myself. Father has big brother and second brother, so I will pursue my own life. Qin Yu's eyes lit up. Xiao Hei, after father's tribulation, I will pursue my own life. Do you want to follow me? Qin Yu said as he stroked Xiao Hei's head. Xiao Hei immediately spread his wings and gently patted Qin Yu's back. Xiao Hei kept nodding his head. Qin Yu smiled when he saw this. No matter what, at least he had Xiao Hei to accompany him. Xiao Hei, let's go. A boring life is just a waste of time. Let's go take a look at the Heavenly Net's missions and see if there are any difficult ones. Qin Yu immediately jumps onto Xiao Hei's back. Xiao Hei immediately flapped his wings and disappeared like a beam of light. Qin De sits in the main seat. The blue-clad old man, Steward Gu Min and Fenjiuzi also sit down in order. The location has been chosen. Everything is almost done. Now we only need to wait for 37 days, Qin De said coldly. The later he goes, the clearer he feels that the heavenly tribulation is coming. 37 days later, it will be the day of his tribulation. The blue-clad old man said with a nod, In the wilderness, there are many demonic beasts. There are also many demonic beasts that have reached the Jin Dan stage. Even if Wu De and Wu Xing discover the heavenly tribulation in the wilderness, they will definitely think it is a demonic beast undergoing a tribulation. In this way, once your highness succeeds in overcoming the tribulation, the Xiong clan will not know that we have such an expert as your highness on our side. The location chosen by your highness is indeed very good. Gu Min also agrees. Qin shakes his head and says with a smile, everything has to wait until I can survive the heavenly tribulation. Alright, Brother Feng, Steward Gu, you can go back first. I have something to discuss with Lan Yi. Goodbye, your highness. Gu Min bows and says. Fenjiuzi only slightly folds his hands in obeisance. Then the two of them leave. The blue-clad old man and the gray-clad old man are the two people in charge of the heavenly net. Usually Qin only calls these two old men by their code names Blue Robe and Gray Robe. In fact, he has never called them by their real names. This time, Qin asked the blue-clad old man to go with him to the wilderness to undergo the tribulation. The gray-clad old man will continue to preside over the operation of the heavenly net. Lan Yi, this time Uncle Yen will send 5 late-stage Xiantian experts from the secret arrow team led by Steward Gu. On your side of the heavenly net, find some late-stage Xiantian experts from the internal network. At the same time, invite this killer Lu Xing to come here. There is a faint smile on the corners of Qin mouth. The blue-clad old man also smiles faintly. The heavenly net is divided into the internal network and the external network. However, the people of the external network are not under their direct control. They can only invite them. As the leader of the heavenly net, Qin has been paying close attention to this killer Lu Xing. That killer Lu Xing is extremely powerful. According to my subordinates, he has taken 9 missions in a row and succeeded with ease. Some of the targets were late-stage Xiantian experts, but when faced with this killer Lu Xing, they were all killed. His power should have reached the peak of the Xiantian realm. The blue-clad old man evaluates. What Qin needs now is experts. Absolute experts. That day, Qin told Qin Yu that a peak Xiantian expert has no power to resist a Zionist. It can be said that he is right, but not completely right. If it is a one-on-one battle, of course it will be so. However, if 5 or 6 peak Xiantian experts join forces and use middle-grade holy weapons, it will be a different story. Peak Xiantian experts are extremely fast as lightning. If 5 or 6 of them attack at the same time, it will be really hard for a Jin dance stage Zionist to deal with them. Once the body is destroyed, the Zionist will be finished. Zionists only have mysterious true elemental force. The structure of the body is similar to that of ordinary people. Once the heart is shattered, they will still die. What Qin needs is a peak Xiantian expert, or at least a late-stage Xiantian expert. However, a peak Xiantian expert is too rare. Now, according to Qin's judgment, this killer Lu Xing is a peak Xiantian expert. Moreover, according to the missions this killer Lu Xing has taken, he is trustworthy. Lan Yi, you invite him personally. If necessary, you can use force to slightly deter him. Of course, you can't tell him the location of the tribulation, nor my identity. When the time comes, let him come with us. Qin says. He is not afraid of this unknown killer Lu Xing. Even if he is an enemy, so what? After all, he cannot let Lu Xing know anything. Yes, subordinate will invite him personally. Lan Yi bows and says. Qin Yu is very strange. Last time when he took the mission, the head of the Skynet branch told Qin Yu that the Supreme Great Elder of the Skynet wants to talk to him. As a top killer of the Skynet, Qin Yu also knows that there are 2 Great Elders of the Skynet. Now, what does the Great Elder want to talk to him about? According to the appointment, Qin Yu arrives at a tea house. At this moment, there is not a single guest in the tea house. Qin Yu slightly frowns. Mr. Lu Xing is here. Why don't you come up? A burst of laughter comes from the second floor. Qin Yu moves his feet and his whole body disappears into thin air. There is not even the sound of wind when he moves. Then, he directly appears at the entrance of the stairs of the second floor. His speed has reached a terrifying level. So fast, and there is no sound of wind. Lan Yi is shocked. He knows that even he cannot reach that speed. Lan Yi looks at the entrance of the stairs. There is a person standing there. He is about 175 meters tall and his whole body is very cold. But Lan Yi inexplicably feels that the person in front of him is very familiar. Qin Yu looks at the person in front of him, but his eyes twitches. He recognizes that the so-called Great Elder of the Skynet in front of him is actually the mysterious Lan Yi who occasionally appears by his father's side. The blue-clad and gray-clad elders are usually very secretive. They only appear in the princely mansion once in a while.